Chapter 469. Boasting Shamelessly. Fu Donglu scolded in his heart. This time around, the old ancestor and grandfather were personally involved. If the other party could leave the Cloud City alive, the Cloud Sect could just commit mass suicide. This was confidence that originated from the strength of the old ancestor and grandfather. Longao, you don't have to be arrogant. Don't think that the Dragon Sect is invincible. I can tell you that the Cloud Sect will not compromise. The Cloud Sect is stubborn. Seems like the Cloud Sect will not compromise obediently without using force. Longao was not surprised at all. No matter what, the Cloud Sect was the number one force in the Cloud region. They would definitely not be willing to submit to the Dragon Sect. It would be weird if the Cloud Sect chose to compromise. However, Longao knew that the Cloud Sect had to be subdued if the Dragon Sect wanted to stabilize their position as the overlord of the Nine region. None of the Nine region could be left out. Longao, cut the crap. If you have the guts, let's have a fair fight. If you win, my Cloud Sect will willingly submit to you. If you lose, then Dragon Sect will have to listen to Cloud Sect from now on. How about it? Hearing Fu Donglio's words, Longao was surprised. He did not know where Fu Donglio's confidence came from. However, since things had come to this, Longao would not back down. Looking coldly at Fu Donglu, Longao smiled and said, I'm willing to accompany you. All right, follow me. Patting Ao Xue's hand, Longao whispered, Wait for me here. I'll be back soon. I want to go with you. Ao Xue's face was filled with worry. Although she was very confident in her lover, no matter what, the other party was still the Cloud Sect, the number one force in the Cloud region. Who knew if the Cloud Sect would play any tricks? Ao Xue, trust me. I will return safely. If you come with me, I will have to take care of you. Looking deeply at her lover in front of her, Ao Xue finally nodded and said worriedly, Be careful. Understood. Before Longao left, he released the two World Emperor Spirit Beast Corpse slaves. With the corpse slaves protecting them, he believed that no one in Cloud City would be able to harm Ao Xue. Longao followed Fu Donglu all the way and soon left Cloud City. At the foot of a very isolated mountain. Longao, master of the Dragon Sect, I admire your courage and strength. If you had not provoked my Cloud Sect. Who are you? Without giving Fu Che the chance to finish, Longao interrupted him. However, Longao had already guessed that the World Emperor in front of him should be a helper that Fu Donglu had found. World Emperors were existences at the pinnacle of the Void Realm. No wonder the Cloud Sect was the number one power in the Cloud region. Fu Che. Fu Donglu has made it very clear. If I lose, the Dragon Sect will submit to the Dragon Sect. If I win, the Cloud Sect will submit to the Dragon Sect from now on. They can't be disloyal. Otherwise, I will slaughter the Cloud Sect. If it was someone else who said this, Fu Che and Fu Donglu would definitely scoff and not care about it. However, the person who said this was the master of the Dragon Sect, Longao, a god of death who had slaughtered the Blood Sea Sect. If Longao wanted to, he could slaughter the Cloud Sect at any time. No matter what, the Dragon Sect's current strength was not something that the Cloud Sect could contend against. Would a Superman man who dared to fight against the four major powers put the Cloud Sect in his eyes? Longao, you've gone too far. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. I've chased the four major powers out of the Nine region. Can't I dominate the Nine region? I'll still say the same thing. My Cloud Sect will not submit to the Dragon Sect. As long as the Dragon Sect doesn't cause trouble for us, this grudge will be written off. How about it? Longao did not speak, but his expression showed his attitude. Looking at the situation, both Fu Che and Fu Donglu knew that this battle was unavoidable. Since that was the case, they had to fight. Fu Che did not continue to speak. He stared at Longao. Suddenly, Fu Che made a move. However, he left quickly and came back even faster. His face was filled with fear. You're not my match. If I want to kill you, I only need one move. Longao was very confident. Based on his current strength, killing Fu Che in an instant would not take much effort. After all, he was invincible under the illusionary divine stage. I believe that there are even stronger existences in the Cloud sect. Come out together. Longao was not a fool. Of course, he knew that the Cloud sect would know about his strength after knowing his identity. Since he could kill a world emperor in an instant, why would Fu Che come to his death? Longao's display of strength shocked Fu Che. Although he had received information about Longao that he was a world emperor and could kill a world emperor in an instant, Fu Che did not believe it. After all, rumors could not be completely trusted. But the result? You're indeed a dragon martial artist. Just this strength alone is enough to disdain the illusionary divine stage. Longao, I really want to know why such an outstanding disciple like you did not stay in the Long family. Instead, you came here to die. Looking at the demonic dragon that was slowly walking over, Longao's heart thumped. As expected, the Cloud sect had a half-sage expert. However, what Longao did not expect was that the half-sage expert of the Cloud sect was not a martial artist, but a holy beast, Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Longao had some understanding of the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Amongst the holy beasts, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was one of the stronger holy beasts. Especially at night, its strength would double. This was the first time Longao had encountered a Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Furthermore, it was a holy beast. Thus, he was somewhat fearful. However, Longao did not have the slightest intention of backing down. This was because he clearly knew that if he wanted the Cloud sect to completely submit to him, he had to subdue this Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Otherwise, this matter would be very troublesome. I am not a disciple of the Long family. I am the master of the Dragon sect. Longao's words were very clear. In his heart, he had never admitted that he was a disciple of the Long family. The Dragon sect was an independent existence. It had nothing to do with the Long family. The Howling Moon Demon Wolf seemed to be a little surprised. He said with even more admiration, "The Long family is strong. We don't need to talk about it. I like your character. Longao, I can give you a chance. As long as you hand over your dragon companion, I will let you go. How about it? With just you? Ha ha ha, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have imagined that there would be such an arrogant person in this world. Longao, don't think that you can disregard a half-sage expert just because you can kill a world emperor expert. I will let you know how big the gap between a world emperor and a half-sage expert is." Longao was very afraid because he knew that a half-sage expert of the same level would not be a match for the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Chapter 470. Longao, I'll give you a chance to summon your companion. I really want to see if a dragon warrior is as powerful as the legends say. Regarding the Howling Moon Devil Wolf's meaning, Longao naturally understood it clearly. It wanted nothing more than to seize Long Chang's blood and soul to break through to the Saint Realm. Facing a top Saint Beast, Longao didn't dare to be careless because he knew that it was hard to say whether he would live or die in this battle. Are you afraid? With a sneer, Longao said indifferently. I, Longao, have never known the meaning of fear. Howling Moon Demon Wolf, I'll use your blood to tell the world that no one dares to disobey my dragon sect. Ha ha, what an arrogant boy. You're simply courting death. As soon as he finished speaking, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf's body had already rushed out, and a terrifying saint she pressed down. This was the power of a saint beast. As Longao turned around, his right arm had already smashed out. At this time, a dragon's roar rang out, and a giant black dragon appeared in midair. Seeing the giant black dragon, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf didn't show the slightest fear. Instead, he was extremely excited. If they were at the same level, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf would definitely not be Long Chang's opponent. But the problem now was that Long Chang was only in the World Emperor realm, while the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was a genuine saint beast. The two couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. It was precisely because of this that the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was somewhat impatient to kill Longao and seize the black dragon's soul and blood. In this way, he could directly advance to become a saint from the half-saint realm, which he had been unable to break through for a long time. In the blink of an eye, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf and Long Chan had already engaged in a fierce battle. It had to be said that the dragon race was the most powerful existence in the world. Even if Longao's realm wasn't as good as the Howling Moon Demon Wolf, it would still be difficult for the Howling Moon Demon Wolf to defeat Long Chan in a short time. Under Longao's continuous attacks, he could be considered to be furious. He had originally wanted to give the Cloud Sect a chance. However, the Cloud Sect did not refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Since that was the case, why should he continue to dawdle? Longao did not join hands with Long Chan to deal with the so-called Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Instead, he shot towards Fu Che and Fu Donglu. Killing intent surged as they swarmed over. Both Fu Che and Fu Donglu were shocked. Neither of them had expected that Longao would turn around and chase after the two of them. Fu Che had already been defeated in a single move, so how could he dare to continue fighting? Moreover, the old ancestor was currently too busy to deal with him. If the two of them were killed, who would they seek justice from? Not daring to hesitate, the two of them turned around and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, the two of them were horrified to discover that their bodies had been frozen. Moreover, the flow of time around them had begun to reverse. Their speed had slowed down, while Longao's speed had increased relatively. It was obvious what would happen if they went back and forth. Innate divine ability, Dragon's Roar. Longao was very clear in his heart that he could not give the Howling Moon Demon Wolf any chance to save them. He was prepared to end the battle quickly, so he directly used the so-called innate divine ability, Dragon's Roar. With their bodies locked, Fu Che and Fu Donglu were completely frightened. They looked around in shock, not knowing what had happened. Stubborn. I have already given you a chance. It is you who did not cherish it. Xiao must blame me. Without giving the two of them any chance to speak, Longao's bloodthirsty broadsword had already fiercely chopped down. The broadsword light was like lightning, streaking through the air. The surrounding space began to tremble, and then traces of black air currents appeared. I am not willing. Just as they finished speaking, Fu Che and Fu Donglu were already swallowed by the black air currents. Longao did not hesitate to dodge after killing the two of them. He then turned around and attacked the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. Longao was very clear in his heart that if he did not kill Fu Donglu and Fu Che, it would not be easy for the sect to stabilize its position as the overlord of the 9 regions in the future. Rather than bringing trouble in the future, it was better to directly erase the two of them now. Even if Fu Donglu and Fu Che died, the strength of the Cloud Sect did not decline in the slightest. The Howling Moon Demon Wolf was very powerful. Even if Longao and Long Chan joined hands, they would not be able to defeat the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. The dragon's roar continued to resound between heaven and earth. Longao knew that the longer the battle dragged on, the worse it would be for him and Long Chan. Therefore, he had to end the battle quickly. After all, the difference between their realm and the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was very big. It was not something that could be made up for by other things. In the end, Longao had no choice but to use his innate divine ability, Dragon Roar. However, the Howling Moon Fiend Wolf's strength was truly very strong. In less than 2 seconds, the Howling Moon Fiend Wolf had already broken through the lock. As the dragon's roar resounded, Longao slashed out with his blood-sucking blade. Blood-sucking devours the heavens tore through the space, causing the surroundings to tremble once again. Traces of cracks appeared in the space as the terrifying spatial cracks frantically tried to devour the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. As long as the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was devoured, even if it had 3 heads and 6 arms, it would not be able to block the spatial cracks. However, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had dodged. The spatial cracks simply could not devour the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. His heart thumped. Even his innate ability and blood-sucking blade were unable to kill the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. It seemed that it would be very difficult for him to succeed. Longao, you dared to kill Fu Che. Today, I will tear your corpse into 10,000 pieces. You will never be able to reincarnate. Ignoring the howling moon demon wolf's threat, Longao slashed out with his blade. Immediately after, Long Chang stood up, turned around, and dashed away. As a sacred beast, the howling moon demon wolf's speed was not inferior to Long Chang's. Because of this, Longao sent Long Chang into the dragon seal space and disappeared into the forest. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. The howling moon demon wolf sneered. It did not intend to give up. It had encountered a black dragon with great difficulty. If it gave up just like this, it would not even have the chance to regret. 3 hours later, the Cloud City was completely shaken, because the news of Fu Che and Fu Donglio's deaths had already reached the Cloud City. Anyone who received the news was shocked, because what Fu Che and Fu Donglu represented was something that everyone knew very well. The master of the Cloud Sect and the old ancestor of the Cloud Sect had been openly killed in the Cloud City. No one believed this until the Cloud Sect sent out the news. Only then was the news confirmed. In this way, the Cloud City and the Cloud Sect were in complete chaos. Everyone was in danger. No one knew what would happen next. At this moment, everyone was discussing the Cloud Sect's master's death. As the number one force in the Cloud region, unless it was the 4 major forces, no one would dare to provoke the Cloud Sect. They were simply courting death. I can't imagine that someone would dare to kill the Cloud Sect's master and old ancestor. I'm guessing that the other party must be from the 4 major forces. Wrong. I've received news that the one who dealt with the Cloud Sect is the Dragon Sect's master, Longao. Chapter 471. Longao? Everyone was shocked when they heard that it was Longao who was looking for trouble with the Cloud Sect. No one was unfamiliar with Longao. He was a legendary young man who had dealt a heavy blow to the 4 major forces. He was a super genius who had left his Long family and established the Dragon Sect. Everyone thought that it was the 4 major forces. When they heard that the other party was the master of the Dragon Sect, Longao, they sighed in their hearts. The Cloud Sect was finished. No one could figure out why the Cloud Sect would provoke Longao. Provoking a super killer who dared to fight against the 4 major forces was simply courting death. One could survive a heavenly disaster, but one could not survive a self-inflicted disaster. No one sympathized with the Cloud Sect. That was because everyone knew that in this world where people ate people and martial arts reigned supreme, there was only one principle. That was, the winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. After Longao killed the 2 honorables of the Cloud Sect, he had sent word back to the sect. According to the Snake Emperor, he would have to wait for at least 1 or 2 years before he could deal with the sects and families in the 9 states. But the situation was different now. In order to not cause trouble in the future, Longao was prepared to suppress the Cloud Sect directly. Because of this, the Snake Emperor led the corpse slave army of the Dragon Sect to attack the Cloud Sect. If they were to spread out, the Dragon Sect might not be able to take down the Cloud Sect in a short time. But if the Dragon Sect were to attack the Cloud Sect with all their might, the result would be obvious. The corpse slave army of the Dragon Sect entered the Cloud City and attacked the Cloud Sect. In just 1 day, they had completely occupied the Cloud Sect. No one was surprised by the actions of the Dragon Sect. The Cloud Sect had provoked the master of the Dragon Sect, Longao. It would be strange if the Dragon Sect did not destroy the Cloud Sect. The Snake Emperor led the corpse slave army to occupy the Cloud Sect but did not disturb the order of the Cloud City. He even informed the Cloud City that everything would go on as usual. The only difference was that the master of the Cloud City would no longer be the Cloud Sect but the Dragon Sect. The strong were revered and strength was everything. The people of the Cloud City did not care who was the overlord as long as they could live a better life. Based on this situation, the Cloud City hoped that the Dragon Sect would become the overlord of the Cloud City, and not the Cloud Sect. After all, the difference in strength between the Dragon Sect and the Cloud Sect was huge. In a forest not far from Cloud City, Longao hid in a cave and sat quietly. For an entire 3 days he and the Moonhowl demonic wolf had been playing hide-and-seek, causing the Moonhowl demonic wolf to be incomparably furious, yet unable to do anything. Strength. Longao was depressed to the extreme because what he needed the most at this time was strength. Once his cultivation base broke through from the Void World Emperor to the Semi-Saint realm, he would not need Long Chang's help. He would be able to easily kill the Howling Moon demonic wolf by himself. However, he was unable to take the final step. With his current strength, he was still not a match for the Howling Moon demon wolf. He had no choice but to admit that the Howling Moon demon wolf was not only powerful, but also extremely calm. If it had been any other half-saint, he would have been able to take advantage of the situation and kill the half-saint once they let their guard down. However, facing the Howling Moon wolf, Longao did not even have the slightest chance. How should he deal with the Howling Moon demon wolf? Longao, I know you're nearby. Don't worry. I'll see how long you can last. Later, I'll invite some friends over to take care of you. I hope you won't disappoint me, Hearing the Howling Moon demon wolf's voice, Longao hid his presence and did not go out. You'll be anxious to death. Chi-chi, 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 chi-chi. At this time, Longao heard a strange sound coming from outside the cave. Curious, he stood up. Before he could walk out of the cave to see what was going on, a shocking scene appeared in front of him. Longao felt his hair stand on end. Thousands upon thousands of fist-sized dark red ants swarmed over from all directions. At a glance, it was impossible to see the end of them because there were simply too many dark red ants. Longao, I've already invited the Ant Queen to take care of you. I hope you can survive. Ant Queen? With the sudden appearance of tens of thousands of ants in front of him, Longao naturally knew what it meant. Man-eating ants, individually, were not very strong. They had not even reached the Xiantian realm. However, man-eating ants were spirit beasts that lived in groups. Not to mention, Longao was shocked to find that the man-eating ants in front of him were all at the One-Line Sky realm. With tens of thousands of One-Line Sky warriors swarming in, the result was obvious. Until now, Longao still could not figure out how the Howling Moon demon wolf had done it. He did not dare to be careless. If it was an individual battle, Longao would not have put the man-eating ants in his eyes. However, the current situation was completely different. Longao was very clear in his heart that even if he could eliminate all the man-eating ants here, he believed that he would die of exhaustion. The only entrance to the cave was blocked. Wanting to leave was already impossible. Thus, there was only one way left, and that was to meet force with force. The wild draw saber appeared in his hand. Without the slightest hesitation, he ruthlessly chopped out. A shocking saber light turned into endless flames, firmly blocking the entrance. The man-eating ants had received the Ant Queen's order. No matter what happened, even if they knew that continuing to attack would only lead to their own destruction, they still resolutely threw themselves into despair like moths to a flame, as if they were not afraid of death. Seeing this situation, Longao's complexion became even more unsightly. He did not dare to relax in the slightest. Longao knew that once he let all the man-eating ants in, the consequences would be unimaginable. The flame shield firmly blocked the entrance. This was not the way to go. After all, there were too many man-eating ants, and they were not afraid of death. If this continued, the entrance would be breached sooner or later. What should he do? Longao's mind was constantly thinking of various methods. Suddenly, a spirit beast flashed in Longao's mind. It was also the nemesis of man-eating ants. It was called the Anteater. It was said that man-eating ants and Anteater were natural enemies. Once they met, it was either you die or I die. If he could find the Anteater, then this problem would be solved. It was as difficult as ascending to the sky to summon the Anteater alone, but now, the problem was not so difficult. Longao smiled. Such a good bait, if he didn't make good use of it, he would be sorry for himself. Longao frantically blocked the entrance while catching hundreds of man-eating ants and killing them one by one. Then, he split the bodies of all the man-eating ants in two. Blood instantly dyed the entire cave. Longao's method was very simple, that was to use the blood of the man-eating ants to lure the anteater over. The anteater was the natural enemy of the man-eating ants. Once it smelled or sensed the aura of the man-eating ants, it would come immediately. It wouldn't even wait for a minute. Chapter 472. Because of this, Longao was ready to try and see if the rumors were true. Time passed by slowly. After an unknown amount of time, when Longao could no longer hold on, a strange sound suddenly came from all directions. Before Longao could figure out what was going on, a huge anteater suddenly crawled out from the ground. Each anteater was half the height of a person, and its entire body was covered with a thick layer of fur. Endless anteaters appeared. They did not care about Longao at all and directly charged towards the entrance. In the chaos, Longao took the opportunity to leave the cave. In his heart, he was pleasantly surprised to the extreme because Longao had never thought that he would actually succeed just because he wanted to try. After successfully attracting the anteaters, Longao heaved a sigh of relief. As the natural enemy of the man-eating ants, they were simply courting death when they encountered the anteaters. Longao, you're courting death! Seeing the sudden appearance of the howling moon demon wolf and the ant emperor, Longao cursed and then slashed with his blade. The howling moon demon wolf dodged, but what about the ant emperor? The ant emperor was only a world emperor and could not be compared to the howling moon demon wolf. Moreover, in the ant emperor's opinion, with the howling moon demon wolf by its side, the human in front of it would not dare to take the initiative to attack. But the ant emperor was wrong. If it encountered other people, perhaps it would not attack, but it encountered Longao, a god of death who feared neither heaven nor earth. This slash contained the strength of Longao's entire body and merged with the aura of heaven and earth. This slash could be said to be Longao's strongest move. Not to mention a world emperor, even a half-step saint would die if they were hit. Careless, the ant emperor was directly swallowed by the blade light and cut into two. Startled, the howling moon demon wolf never thought that the opponent's slash would be so terrifying. It did not dare to be as arrogant as before, but it did not give up the chase. Step by step, it advanced and closed in. In the howling moon demon wolf's opinion, no matter how strong Longao was, a world emperor was still a world emperor. Perhaps he could kill the ant emperor in one slash, but he was definitely not his opponent. Regarding this, the howling moon demon wolf was extremely confident. Longao, dragon your grandpa. Taking advantage of the momentum, Longao sent out a slash, then quickly turned around and left. Before the howling moon demon wolf could react, Longao's figure had already disappeared without a trace. Longao, I'm going to tear you to shreds! The howling moon demon wolf let out a terrifying howl. It ignored the battle between the man-eating ants and the anteater horde and directly charged in the direction Longao had disappeared. Within an elegant cave somewhere in the Martial Heaven continent. Senior sister, I'm back. As soon as they entered the cave, Tonglinger immediately hugged Yuin, who was in the middle of cultivating. She appeared particularly affectionate, as if they were biological sisters instead of fellow disciples. With a doting smile, Yuin caressed Tonglinger's hair and asked impatiently, "Have you seen him?" Tonglinger naturally knew who her senior sister was talking about. She gently nodded. "I saw him. Senior sister, he's not bad. Of all the men I've seen, he's the best." She seemed a bit surprised. Yuin had never imagined that this junior sister who normally looked down on men would have such an evaluation of Longao. Could it be that her junior sister had already fallen in love with Longao? Yuin still didn't believe it. Everyone in the sect knew that her junior sister hated men the most. She didn't place any men in her eyes. Since that was the case, how could she have fallen in love with Longao? It seemed she had been overthinking things. "Linger, tell me more about him." Nodding, Tonglinger told her everything that had happened in the Tianzhou province. The only thing she didn't mention was that Longao had fought the Ghost King sect alone for Aoshue. The reason why Tonglinger didn't mention this was because she didn't want her senior sister to be sad. Senior sister, before I came back, Master already told me that in a while, there will be a martial arts competition for you. At that time, all the super disciples of the various sects will compete. Waving her hand, Yuying didn't wait for Tonglinger to finish speaking. No matter who it is, no matter what happens, I won't like anyone else. In my heart, there's only Longao. If he doesn't abandon me, I'll be by his side in life and death. If he doesn't abandon me, I'll be by his side in life and death. Hearing this, Tonglinger's body suddenly trembled. When would she be able to meet such a love? Senior sister, it's not like you don't know the sect and Master's temper. Unless Longao can become a top existence in the Long family and be heavily nurtured by the Long family, the sect won't allow you to be with Longao. How could you not know what Tonglinger was talking about? I believe in Longao's talent and potential. I believe that before long, he'll definitely stand at the top of the Long family. Senior sister, I know you like Longao very much. At the same time, I also admit that Longao's talent and potential are very great. However, it's almost impossible for him to become the focus of the Long family in a short period of time. Unless he can enter the top 30 of the dragon rankings, he doesn't have the right to be the one to pursue you. The dragon rankings was the ranking with the greatest value in the Long family. Yuying obviously knew what Tonglinger meant, but no matter what, she still firmly believed that Longao could stand at the top of the Long family. As for the others, Yuying wasn't worried at all. At worst, she could threaten them with her life. She believed that with her talent and potential, the sect would definitely choose to compromise. Senior sister, can you tell me more about the two of you? Nodding, Yuying seemed to have recalled something. Her face was filled with happiness, and she began to slowly tell the story. That year, in Scarlet Fire Town, she and Longao were engaged, and Longao was recognized as the #1 genius in Scarlet Fire Town. That year, Longao failed to condense his inner strength, and he fell from a genius to a piece of trash. When Longao chose not to give up, Yuying also told herself that no matter when, no one was allowed to hurt her lover. It was also that year that Yuying chose to cultivate a very strange cultivation method. Not only did her appearance become ugly, but her body also became fat. However, Yuying didn't care about any of this. Longao persevered for 10 years, and Yuying also persevered for 10 years. Only the two of them understood this friendship. They worked hard and engraved it in their hearts, and they went through life and death together. It was also because of this feeling, and because of this 10 years of perseverance, that the two of them had a love of life and death. If he didn't leave or abandon her, she would stay with him in life and death. What kind of feeling was this? Let's ask, if this feeling was with another woman, would that other woman be able to do it? There were very few people who could do it. This was the unique Yuying, and her 10 years of perseverance. Chapter 473. After hearing this, Tonglinger's face was filled with yearning. Senior sister, I really envy you. 10 years of persistence. If it was me, I definitely wouldn't be able to do it. What are you envying me for? I believe that it won't be long before you find your ideal husband. Tonglinger smiled bitterly. How could it be so easy to find her ideal husband? She didn't know why, but when she thought of Longao, her heart skipped a beat. Because of this, Tonglinger was shocked and wondered what was wrong with her. Could it be that she really liked Longao? She was shocked. No, how could she like her senior sister's lover? She definitely couldn't do such a shameless thing. Senior sister, I just came back and felt that your aura has improved. Could it be that your cultivation has already broken through? You can say that, but it's still far from Master's expectations. Hearing this, Tonglinger's face was filled with helplessness and depression. Her senior sister's talent was the strongest she had ever seen. In just a few months, her achievements were so high. If she didn't see it with her own eyes, she wouldn't believe that there was such a talented person in this world. Senior sister, Master has high expectations for you. I believe that you can break through to the divine path in less than 3 years. Divine path? Hearing the words divine path, Yuying wasn't as happy as she imagined. Because in her opinion, if she had to choose between Divine Path and Longao, she would choose Longao without a doubt, and not the so-called Divine Path. In the eyes of outsiders, the Divine Path was also a realm that they yearned to reach even in their dreams. However, Yuying's wish was actually very simple. There was only one, and that was to live a peaceful life with the person she loved. Cloud City. The Snake Emperor led the Corpse Demon army to occupy the Cloud sect and turned it into a branch of the Dragon sect. The Snake Emperor directly took over. This was also one of the first branches of the Dragon sect since its establishment. On the other side, Longao and the Howling Moon Demonic Wolf were still playing the game of chase, but from beginning to end, the Howling Moon Demonic Wolf was depressed to the extreme. With his strength, he was actually unable to catch up to Longao. If this matter were to spread out, he would definitely be laughed at. The Void World Emperor and a half-step Saint Martial Artist were two very different existences, and could not be mentioned in the same breath. If it was an ordinary World Emperor, he would have been killed by the Howling Moon Demon Wolf long ago, but Longao's situation was completely different. Longao, if you have the ability, then stop and fight me. What kind of hero are you if you keep dodging? Longao completely ignored the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. He was not an idiot. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. After all, he could not be compared to the Howling Moon Demon Wolf. If he chose to fight it head-on, he would be the one to suffer in the end. Howling Moon Demon Wolf, you are too impudent. At this moment, a dignified voice suddenly sounded. Looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of him, the Howling Moon Demon Wolf, who was extremely arrogant just a moment ago, trembled in fear and fell to the ground. He said in horror, 10,000 beast token I. Gotcha. Without waiting for the Howling Moon Demon Wolf to finish speaking, the young man had already made his move and killed him. Seeing this situation, Longao was not surprised at all, because with Sure Potion's strength, killing the Howling Moon Demon Wolf was almost an easy matter. Longao could completely guess that Sure Potion's strength had reached the so-called Great Emperor realm at the very least. How could it not be easy for a Great Emperor martial artist to kill a Saint Beast? It was just that what Longao never thought was that Sure Potion would suddenly appear. Many thanks. Waving his hand, Sure Potion said with a smile. I just happened to pass by. Longao, although the Howling Moon Demon Wolf is powerful, it should be nothing to you. Helplessly shrugging, Longao did not hide anything and said, it is difficult to make up for the difference in cultivation level. If we were at the same cultivation level, I would not have dodged. Nodding, Sure Potion said, Longao, your growth has surprised me. It seems that it won't be long before you can join hands with me. Until now, Longao still did not know Sure Potion's identity. If it was before, he would definitely not ask, but now, Longao said, although I don't know why you chose me, the result is that since you chose me, you must tell me your identity. I don't want to know more, I just want to know who you are. Longao had already decided that if Sure Potion did not tell him his identity, he would not agree to continue cooperating with him even if it meant offending him. Because he did not know who Sure Potion was, how could he dare to continue cooperating with someone who he did not even know? Longao, have you heard of the Wanshou sect? Wanshou sect? Shaking his head, Longao indeed did not know what kind of existence the Wanshou sect was, but he was sure that it was not a small sect. Just by looking at Sure Potion, he already knew the strength of the Wanshou sect. I can only tell you that I am from the Wanshou sect, as for other things, I cannot tell you. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Sure Potion continued, Longao, when you break through to the Great Emperor realm, I will come to find you again. As for me, do not tell anyone, especially the Long family, otherwise you will be killed. Take care of yourself. Looking at Sure Potion, who had already turned around and left, Longao became even more dignified. Wanshou sect? Who was Sure Potion? Why did he choose him? Longao did not know why, but he felt that something was wrong. As for what was wrong, he could not figure it out. This time, Shirpatian had acted in time and killed the Howling Moon Demon Wolf, but Longao had heard the Howling Moon Demon Wolf shout the Wansho sect's command before it died. What kind of existence was the Wansho sect's command? Longao was not stupid, of course. He could see some clues from the Howling Moon Demon Wolf's frightened face. If he was not mistaken, the Wansho sect and Shirpatian were not simple. They were not simple. It seemed like his first task was to quickly find out what kind of existence the Wansho sect was. After being chased by the Howling Moon Demon Wolf for 5 to 6 days, Longao was completely exhausted. Following the Cloud City, he arrived at the Yun sect in a short time. The Yun sect had become a branch of the Dragon sect. In other words, the Dragon sect was now the overlord of the Cloud City. It was also his home. "Master, are you all right?" The Snake Emperor was very worried because he knew that there was a saint beast in the Yun sect that had been chasing after the Master. Now that the Master had returned safely, the Snake Emperor heaved a sigh of relief. Shaking his head, Longao said, "I am fine, Elder Snake. I want to ask you something. Do you know about the Wansho sect?" Hearing the 3 words Wansho sect, the Snake Emperor's expression changed. He nodded and said, "I know. I don't know why Master suddenly asked about the Wansho sect." Chapter 474. Hearing the Snake Emperor's words, Longao was overjoyed. "Elder Snake, tell me about the Wansho sect." The Snake Emperor nodded curiously. He didn't know why the Master suddenly mentioned the Wansho sect. "Master, rumor has it that the Wansho sect is the most mysterious sect in the world. They are extremely powerful and can even compete with the Long family and the Long family. Moreover, the Wansho sect and the Long family are sworn enemies." Longao cursed in his heart because he didn't expect the Wansho sect to be so powerful that they could even compete with the Long family. No one knows where the headquarters of the Wansho sect is, nor do they know anything about the Wansho sect. The only thing they know is that the Wansho sect can control any spirit beast in the world. They can be said to be the masters of all spirit beasts. Regarding this point, Longao had already seen it with his own eyes. Rumor has it that the Wansho sect wanted to control the Dragon clan, but the Long family resisted. Over time, the Wansho sect and the Long family became sworn enemies. Longao finally understood why Shirpatian wanted to enter the Dragon Valley. Longao was now sure that Shirpatian had a very high status in the Wansho sect. His eyes became deep and serene. Although Longao didn't have a good impression of the Long family, Longao didn't want the Dragon Valley to be controlled by the Wansho sect. Shirpatian, Wansho sect. Longao did not continue to ask because he knew very well in his heart that with his current strength, talking about this was all nonsense. It was still the same sentence. If he wanted to have the right to speak, he had to first harden his fist. "Elder Snake, what's the situation now?" "Master, the Yun sect is very powerful, but with the help of the Corpse Slave Army, we managed to take down the Yun sect in just 1 day." Corpse Slave Army. The Snake Emperor felt his scalp go numb when he thought about the Corpse Slave Army's immortal body. He could imagine that with the Corpse Slave Army in the Yun sect, who could resist the Yun sect unless it was one of the 4 great factions? He was extremely satisfied. Longao knew clearly in his heart that the Cloud sect had now become one of the branches of the sect. This also meant that the Cloud sect was now completely stable. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. With the destruction of the Cloud sect, he believed that the other forces in the Cloud region would not dare to resist. This trip to the Cloud sect was not in vain. "Elder Snake, from now on, you should quickly stabilize your position as the overlord of the 9 regions. It would be best if you could settle this matter within a year. As for the matter of the Cloud sect, you can just leave it to others." The Snake Emperor nodded. Of course, he knew that his master trusted him a lot. He said, "Master, I will go and take care of this matter later. However, the Cloud sect has just been destroyed. There are still many things that have yet to be done." "All right." After that, Longao got up and immediately went to look for Aoshue. Inside the restaurant, Aoshue did not leave. She waited quietly by herself. Seeing that Longao had returned smoothly, her heart was filled with joy. She asked, "Are you all right?" Shaking his head, Longao did not tell her what had happened earlier. Instead, he smiled and said, "I'm fine. I believe you should already know the general situation. The Cloud sect no longer exists. It's just one of the branches of the Dragon sect." Aoshia did not ask much. She knew that if Longao wanted to tell her, he would tell her even if she did not ask. Since that was the case, why should she ask? "Then, what should we do now?" "I'll send you back first. Next, I have to prepare for my breakthrough." Longao and Ao Shui nodded. Just like that, Longao and Ao Shui left Cloud City and returned to the Dragon sect. The news of the Cloud sect's destruction had already spread throughout the 9 states. It was also at this moment that everyone realized that the Dragon sect was about to make a move. Everyone had a new understanding of the Dragon sect's strength. They believed that only the 4 major forces could destroy the Cloud sect in a single day. Now, there was the Dragon sect. Longao returned to the Dragon sect and immediately entered into cultivation. Because he was completely relaxed this time, his state of mind had changed. It was a very strange change. Inside the Dragon Seal space. "Long Fu, why are you looking for me in such a hurry?" "Master, I have lied to you about something. I hope you can forgive me." "About the primordial divine dragon? How did you know?" Long Fu was surprised to be seen through by his master. He never thought that his master would be able to guess what he was about to say. Smiling, Longao did not mind at all. He said, "This matter is very clear. Back then, when I dreamt of Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon fighting the heavenly Tao, I had already guessed that the Dragon Seal's master was either Long Tian or the primordial divine dragon. However, Long Fu, since I am your new master, I hope you will not lie to me about anything in the future." "There is no need." Before Long Fu could say anything, Longao continued, "If you are unwilling to follow me, you can leave. I will not say anything. However, if you choose me, you must be loyal." Longao's meaning was very clear. Although he did not care much about this matter, Longao still felt a little uncomfortable. After all, the current master of the Dragon Seal was him and not Long Tian or the primordial divine dragon. Long Fu nodded and said, "Master, in my heart, my previous master has already disappeared. Only you and the primordial divine dragon are my true masters. However, the primordial divine dragon will not be able to hold on for long. Therefore, from now on, I only have one master, and that is you." Longao nodded and did not care much. After all, the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian had already disappeared. There was no meaning in fighting with the dead. "Long Fu, why did you come to find me this time? I don't like to beat around the bush." Longao had already guessed that Long Fu must have something to do with the primordial divine dragon. As for what it was, he did not know. "Master, my old master wants to talk to you personally." "Old master? Primordial divine dragon?" Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was startled. Of course, he knew what Long Fu meant. Before Longao could react, a dragon's roar came from the blood pool and resounded throughout the Dragon Seal space. Immediately after, 100 feet long black dragon shadow suddenly appeared in the blood pool. An ancient aura spread out and shrouded the entire space. Longao shuddered. He clearly knew that the 100 feet long dragon shadow in front of him was the legendary ancestor of the dragon clan, the primordial divine dragon. Longao swallowed his saliva. He had always thought that the primordial divine dragon had fallen, but now, the primordial divine dragon had appeared in front of him. Could this be an illusion? "You're Longao?" Longao swallowed his saliva again and nodded. He was more or less afraid as he said, "Yes, I am. May I know why Senior Primordial Divine Dragon is looking for me? If there's anything, feel free to say it." Chapter 475. Longao, I believe you know who I am. Your ancestor, Long Tian, has been destroyed in body and soul. He can't be reborn. As expected. Although Longao had guessed that the dragon in front of him was the legendary primordial divine dragon, he still couldn't help but be shocked. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that the legendary primordial divine dragon was still alive. As if he could guess what Longao was thinking, the ancient voice of the primordial divine dragon rang out. Longao, my soul can't hold on for much longer. This is why I'm looking for you. Senior Divine Dragon, may I know why you're looking for me? Could it be that he wanted revenge? It couldn't be. Longao naturally knew who the enemy of the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian was. It was the supreme existence of the Tianwu continent, Tian Dao. Although he didn't know who Tian Dao was, Longao knew that a person who could kill the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian was an existence that Tian Dao could be. It's simple. Help me and Long Tian take revenge and kill Tian Dao. Ck Longao cursed in his heart. It was true that what he was afraid of came true. Longao did not immediately agree because he knew his own strength. Not to mention killing Tian Dao, even if it was a great emperor martial artist, he was not his opponent. Senior Divine Dragon, I believe you know my strength best. I can't promise you, please forgive me. Nodding, the primordial divine dragon wasn't angry at all. Longao, I know your concerns. You're now the owner of the dragon seal. With your desolate physique and the little guy's desolate physique, I believe you'll be able to reach the same level as me and Long Tian in less than 100 years. At that time, you'll be able to inherit our strength and fight against Tian Dao. As for the outcome, it'll depend on you. The inheritance of the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian's strength. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't tempted by such a temptation. However, Longao didn't agree immediately. After all, this wasn't a small matter. If he made the slightest mistake, he would die without a burial place. Longao, you have already obtained the dragon seal, and you belong to a Long family. This is your duty, you cannot refuse. Can't refuse? Longao wanted to laugh and cry. Before Longao could say anything, the primordial divine dragon said, Your strength is still very weak now. So when your cultivation breaks through to the divine Dao realm, I will come to find you again. This time, I am just informing you. With that, the dragon's shadow disappeared from the blood pool. Silence. The entire dragon seal space was silent. Longao stood there in a daze, looking at the blood pool in front of him. At this moment, he finally knew why the blood pool was so awesome. The primordial divine dragon was in the blood pool. Longao sighed deeply. He knew very well that the primordial divine dragon had not come looking for him to discuss, but to inform him directly. In the end, the primordial divine dragon did not take him seriously. If he was a supreme Dao warrior, would the primordial divine dragon still dare to act like this? Strength. It was all about strength. Without strength, everything was nonsense. Longao did not reveal the unhappiness in his heart. In his opinion, the primordial divine dragon did indeed have the qualifications to ignore him, but to seek revenge from the heavenly Dao was a little bit suicidal. But things had already come to this point. Did he have a choice? Longao really did not understand. Did the primordial divine dragon have water in his brain? Even the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian could not defeat the heavenly Dao, let alone him. But there was really no other way. Who asked his strength to be inferior to the primordial divine dragon? If the primordial divine dragon were to fight force with force, how could he resist? Helplessly waving his hand, Long Fu said, Master, don't worry. I will do my best to help you improve your strength. When the time comes to integrate with the old master's strength, killing the heavenly Dao will not be difficult. It was easy to say, but Longao would not easily believe Long Fu's nonsense. What kind of joke was this? Killing the heavenly Dao was not difficult. If it was really so simple, why did the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian not succeed in killing the heavenly Dao? But they were killed by the heavenly Dao. Long Fu, I am about to break through to the illusionary divine stage, but I still feel that I am lacking something. Can you help me analyze what I am lacking? Originally, Longao thought that he would be able to break through to the illusionary divine stage. However, what made him extremely depressed was that no matter how hard he tried, he was still unable to break through to the illusionary divine stage. He felt that he could break through to the illusionary divine stage at any time. He was just one step away, but he could not take this step. Master, you are now at the critical point of the illusionary divine stage. You can break through to the illusionary divine stage at any time. Just relying on your strength is no longer enough. Unless you are in a state of enlightenment, you will not be able to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Long Fu didn't continue speaking, but the meaning in his words was already very clear. Hearing this, Longao was also very depressed. It was easy to say, but it was easier said than done to gain enlightenment. Longao did not continue asking. He did not want to stay any longer. He had offended the primordial divine dragon for no reason, and now he had another powerful enemy. Who did he offend? At this moment, Longao could be considered depressed to the extreme. Primordial divine dragon, Long Tian, the heavenly Tao. Everything felt like a dream. Longao realized that the environment that he was in now was only the tip of the iceberg of the sky martial continent. Not to mention the primordial divine dragon, the heavenly Tao and Long Tian, just the Wanshou sect, the Long family and the Heaven and Earth sect were all powerful existences that he could not touch. Longao believed that once the Long family, the Wanshou sect and the Heaven and Earth sect appeared, it would be a piece of cake for them to destroy the dragon sect and his family. It was also because of this that Longao decided to speed up the development of the dragon sect to deal with all the troubles. Longao handed the matter of the expansion to the Snake Emperor, while the internal affairs of the dragon sect were handed over to Dugubai, Long Patian and the rest. As for Longao, he was trying his best to break through to the illusionary divine stage. During the battle with the Howling Moon Demon Wolf, Longao experienced the difference between himself and a half-sage martial artist. Unless he was lucky or his opponent was careless, he would not be a match for an illusionary divine stage martial artist. Illusionary divine stage. Longao could not wait to break through to the illusionary divine stage. He was confident that once he broke through to the illusionary divine stage, he would be able to kill any illusionary divine stage martial artist. The last step. He was only one step away. Sitting quietly at the peak of the mountain, Longao suddenly thought of something that Long Fu had said previously. The 9 revolving reincarnation technique was extremely powerful. The 9 revolving reincarnation technique was able to defy the heavens and earth. When Master completed the 9 revolving reincarnation technique, he would be able to step onto the peak of martial arts. Long Fu was looking forward to seeing Master take that step. The 9 revolving reincarnation technique? Longao did not hesitate and started to comprehend the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. He knew that if he wanted to break through to the illusionary divine stage, he had to start from the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. Chapter 476. Longao had already broken through the first transformation of the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. The first transformation of the 9 revolving reincarnation technique was the mysterious 9 heavenly transformations. Longao had also reached the peak of the mysterious 9 heavenly transformations. Similarly, the 9 revolving reincarnation technique was only one step away from the second transformation. After comprehending for 3 days, Longao finally understood why he was still unable to break through to the illusionary divine stage. The reason was simple. The root of the problem was the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. Longao had successfully comprehended that if he wanted to break through to the illusionary divine stage, he would have to break through to the second transformation of the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. Although it seemed simple, it was actually extremely difficult. Longao stood up and stretched his back. He did not waste any more time. Who knew when he would be able to break through to the 9 revolving reincarnation technique? Instead of wasting time, he might as well do something serious. At this point in time, the Imperial City suddenly sent an invitation to Longao to the Imperial City alone. When everyone knew about this, they all thought that the Imperial City was crazy. No one would go to the Imperial City alone unless they were courting death. Everyone knew that Longao had killed the son of the Imperial City mayor. He and Longao were in a situation where either one of them would die. The Imperial City must have bad intentions for inviting Longao to go alone. Dragon Sect Main Hall? Master, the Imperial City must have bad intentions for inviting you to the Imperial City. You don't have to worry about them. Longao had dealt heavy blows to the Imperial City. This had boosted everyone's confidence, and made them feel that the Dragon Sect and the Imperial City were on the same level. This situation was both good and bad. Longao knew that he could not stop this from happening. He could only take one step at a time. As for the invitation from the Imperial City, Longao thought for a while and suddenly said, "The Imperial City has made it clear that they will announce to the world that they will not do anything to me if I go to the Imperial City this time." Hearing Longao's words, everyone was taken aback. None of them were fools. Of course, they knew that the master had already made his stance clear. He wanted to go to the Imperial City alone. Once the Imperial City made any moves, how would the master deal with it? Thinking of this, everyone began to persuade the master to give up on going to the Imperial City. He waved his hand. Everyone saw that the master's expression was not good, and immediately became quiet. No one dared to say anything. However, everyone's faces were still filled with worry. Since the Imperial City has already announced this to the world, I believe that the Imperial City will not do anything to me. As the saying goes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I also want to see why the Imperial City invited me this time. Everyone was well aware of the master's personality. Since the master had already made his decision, who could stop him? Because of this, no matter how worried and unwilling everyone was, there was nothing they could do. They could only pray that the Imperial City was a true gentleman, and would not go against the master. The news that the Imperial City had invited Longao to the Imperial City, and that Longao had agreed at the same time spread throughout the 9 states, including the 3 major forces. Everyone was guessing what the Imperial City meant. After all, everyone knew about the grudge between Longao and the Imperial City. But now, the Imperial City was inviting Longao to the Imperial City as a guest as if they were friends. Everyone knew Sima Zhao's intentions. Everyone was sure that Longao would definitely be attacked by the Imperial City this time. They thought that Longao would not go, but in the end, Longao agreed without any hesitation. Just this courage alone was unparalleled. It was precisely because of this that everyone was even more aware of one truth. That was, Longao's success was not accidental, but inevitable. Not to mention Longao's talent and strength, just this courage alone had completely surpassed many people. 9 States Spirit Region. 3rd Grade Long Family's Main Hall. Master, why did the Imperial City invite Longao this time? Long Yen was very curious because the 4 major forces had met to discuss how to deal with Longao. In the end, they parted on bad terms. Because the 4 major forces had suffered heavy losses time and time again, each of them had their own ulterior motives. No one was willing to be the first to act. Because of this, the 4 major forces kept each other in check and did not immediately attack the Dragon Sect. Because of this, the Imperial City's sudden invitation to Longao made everyone confused. They did not know what the Imperial City meant. Duan Tiafeng was killed, and Duan he was devastated. He wanted nothing more than to kill Longao. So, I can be sure that the grudge between the Imperial City and Longao will not end here. After thinking for a while, Long Maoan continued. I don't know why the Imperial City invited Longao this time, but for some reason, I have a feeling that the Imperial City did not invite Longao to deal with Longao. They have other motives. Master, I have the same feeling. What should we do now? 9 States Spirit Region, for major forces. The Eastern Imperial City, the Western 3rd Grade Long Family, the Southern Nether Mansion, and the Northern Ethereal Palace had always been fighting openly and secretly. Everyone wanted to destroy the other 3 forces and dominate the 9 States Spirit Region. But for so many years, the four major forces could not do anything to each other. As time passed, the nine-state spirit region became a scene of four major forces fighting for supremacy. But this did not mean that the four major forces were willing to live in peace. As long as there was a chance, the four major forces would not show mercy. I want to see what the Imperial City means by inviting Longao this time. If the Imperial City dares to play any tricks, I will definitely make the Imperial City unable to bear the consequences. After calming down a little, Long Maoan suddenly asked, "Is there any news from the Long family?" Long Yen said helplessly, "No, but Master, I have received news that the Long family already knows everything about Longao. Now, the Long family has two opinions." "What are the two opinions?" "The first is that many people in the Long family want to capture Longao immediately and ask him about the situation. If something is wrong, we should kill him immediately. The second is that we should observe the development of Longao first. If he grows well, the Long family will not continue to punish Longao. In the end, they will focus on cultivating Longao." Just as expected. Long Maoan already knew about this, but he still found it hard to believe. Because he knew very well that the reason why the Long family did not act against Longao was very simple. Longao's talent and growth had moved many people in the Long family. This time, they were in big trouble. "Master, once the Long family thinks highly of Longao, it will be very difficult for us to continue to deal with him." Nodding, Long Maoan said, "This child cannot be left alive. Whether the Long family thinks highly of him, or if he grows up in the future, he will become a big threat to the Long family. We must eliminate him." Chapter 477. Long Maoan's intention was very simple. He wanted to cut the weeds and eliminate all future troubles. Even so, Long Maoan did not make a move in the end. After all, the other three clans had not made a move yet, which made him wary. Everyone in the Long clan knew that Longao had accepted the Imperial City's invitation. Long Haoshi and Mu Wanfeng, as the representatives, rushed to the dragon sect as fast as they could. They were afraid that Longao would leave early. Seeing his grandson, Long Haoshi went straight to the point. He asked impatiently, "Aor, you've accepted the Imperial City's invitation?" Longao nodded. Since things had come to this point, there was no need to hide anything. He replied, "Yes, grandfather. I've accepted the Imperial City's invitation. I'll leave for the Imperial City tomorrow." Hearing this, Long Haoshi and Mu Wanfeng were shocked. Long Haoshi said anxiously, "Aor, I believe you know better than me what kind of existence the Imperial City is. If that's the case, why do you still want to go to the Imperial City?" "You're right. Aor, I know you're very proud, but you can't be conceited. According to the grudge between you and the Imperial City, the moment you go to the Imperial City, they will definitely deal with you." He did not give Longao any chance to speak. Long Haoshi continued, "You know there are tigers in the mountains. Why do you still want to go to the Imperial City?" Looking at the two elders in front of him, Longao did not feel the slightest irritation or dissatisfaction. Instead, his heart was filled with warmth. Longao knew very well that whether it was his grandfather or grandmother, they were both concerned about him. Otherwise, the two elders would not be so bored as to come and meddle in his affairs. "Grandfather, grandmother, please take a seat." After the two of them sat down, Longao said, "Grandfather, grandmother, I can say with certainty that the Imperial City will definitely not deal with me when I go to the Imperial City this time." Long Haoshi seemed to be surprised. He asked, "Why are you so sure?" "Grandfather, it's simple. If the Imperial City wants to deal with me, they don't have to go through so much trouble and announce it to the world." Long Haoshi and Mu Wanfeng did not say anything. They just listened quietly. "Grandfather, the grudge between me and the Imperial City will have to be resolved sooner or later, but now is not the time. If we can form an alliance with the Imperial City and deal with the other three forces together, it will be much easier." Long Haoshi and Mu Wanfeng seemed to have guessed something. Both of them stared at Longao. "Aor, why are you so confident? Intuition. Intuition? It was actually intuition. Both Mu Wanfeng and Long Haoshe were somewhat depressed when they heard Aoer's words. They really couldn't understand why Aoer was so confident. If there was even the slightest mistake, the consequences would be unimaginable. Grandpa, Grandma, you don't have to worry. I have confidence. The two of them sighed deeply. Things had already come to this point, and there was nothing they could do. Aoer, I know your character. However, you must promise us that no matter what happens, you must first protect your own life. Do you understand? Nodding, Longao comforted the two of them. After settling them down, Longao didn't immediately set off. Instead, he gathered many people and briefly explained the sex affairs. The night was terrifyingly silent. Longao stood quietly on the peak of the mountain, looking at the endless void in front of him alone. Longao had already decided that no matter what the Imperial City's invitation was for, he only had one purpose, and that was to form an alliance with the Imperial City. Since going against the four forces, Longao had thought a lot about it. It would not be easy to defeat the four forces by relying on his and the dragon sect's strength alone. It was precisely because of this that Longao was ready to change his strategy and form an alliance with the Imperial City to deal with the three forces. In fact, Longao's intention was very simple. That was to use dogs to fight dogs. When the time came for the Imperial City to deal with the three forces, he would be able to reap the benefits. A cold wind blew. Aoer, it's been hard on you. Without even turning around, Longao already knew who had come. He helplessly shrugged and said, Grandfather, if one day our Long family can be promoted to a first-class family, will the family be able to bear it? Of course, Long Haoshe didn't believe Longao's words. He smiled and said, Aoer, I've always only had one wish, and that is for the family to be promoted to a third-class Long family or for a dragon martial artist to appear in the family. Now, it has finally come true. Dragon martial artist. If it was in the past, it would be an unreachable existence for the family. But now, he had become a genuine dragon martial artist. Longao knew very well in his heart that his grandfather was already very satisfied with this. Without continuing, Longao silently told himself that no matter what happened in the future, he must lead the family to become a Long family and move into the Dragon Valley. At that time, more and more dragon martial artists would appear in the family. Aoer, have you ever thought that with the current strength of the family and the sect, can you really destroy the four major powers? With regards to his grandfather's intentions, Longao naturally knew clearly. He firmly said, No matter how many difficulties lie ahead, I will continue to walk forward. I will definitely destroy the four great powers. There will definitely be a place for my dragon sect in the 9 provinces. Dragon sect? Hearing the two words dragon sect, Long Haoshe was very worried about one thing. That was, if his grandson would slowly forget about the family as the dragon sect grew stronger. Long Haoshe didn't want to see that kind of situation. Grandfather, no matter when, I will always be a disciple of the Long family. This, no matter what happens, will never change. Hearing Longao's words, Long Haoshe's body suddenly trembled. He naturally knew what Longao meant by these words. He was very emotional and said, Aoer, grandfather believes in you. Longao's current achievements were no longer something the family could look up to. If Longao chose to distance himself from the Long family, then there was no doubt that the Long family would be attacked from all sides and fall into a state of eternal damnation. However, Long Haoshe believed in his grandson. Otherwise, as Aoer continued to grow, he would have started to distance himself from the family long ago. However, Aoer always thought about the family. Just from this point alone, Aoer would not abandon the family. Long Haoshe slowly left because he knew that his grandson would go to the Imperial City tomorrow. There were many things that he needed to think about and he couldn't disturb him. Just like that, Longao was the only person left on the mountain peak. He stood there quietly and looked at the endless dark void in front of him. He thought about all kinds of things in his mind, especially the reason why the Imperial City had invited him. What did the Imperial City mean? Although he didn't know what the Imperial City meant, Longao was certain that the Imperial City would definitely not do anything to him in the Imperial City. Chapter 478. Spirit Region of the Nine States. Imperial City. It wasn't the first time Longao had entered the Imperial City, but his identity was completely different. The last time he entered the Imperial City, Longao was still an enemy of the Imperial City. In order to save his beloved, he resolutely killed the Imperial City's young master, Duan Tianfeng. But this time, Longao's identity had undergone a huge change. He was no longer an enemy of the Imperial City, but an honored guest invited by the Imperial City. Longao's identity change made everyone unable to react, especially the disciples of the Imperial City. They didn't know what the sect meant and why they would invite an enemy to be a guest. What a ridiculous thing. Longao was definitely a celebrity in the Imperial City now. The moment he stepped into the Imperial City, he was recognized. In the blink of an eye, the news of Longao entering the Imperial City had spread. Anyone who received the news hurriedly came out, wanting to see the young man who fought against the four major forces. With a head full of blood-red hair, even his eyebrows were blood-red. Coupled with his resolute face, Longao looked like a majestic war god. Ah! He's really handsome. I told you that Longao is handsome, but you didn't believe me. Now do you believe me? Chrysanthemum, what are you so excited about? Who is Longao? Whether he's handsome or not has nothing to do with you. You're thinking too much. Humph, I like him. Bite me. That's right. You're the one who's meddling in other people's business. Chrysanthemum did the right thing. When you meet someone you like, you have to confess. A love-struck fool would exist no matter where one went. Chrysanthemum was also quite beautiful. She liked powerful, handsome guys the most. Now that she finally met one, how could she choose to give up so easily? Ignoring the ridicule and disdain coming from all around, Chrysanthemum directly blocked Longao's path and gently confessed. You're Big Brother Longao, right? Big Brother Longao? Hearing Chrysanthemum's voice, whether it was Longao or the surrounding spectators, they all shuddered. They had seen domineering people, but they had never seen such a domineering person. Being confessed in public, Longao was also a little dumbfounded. He wasn't afraid of any difficulties or dangers, but this was the first time Longao had encountered a confession in broad daylight. He didn't know what to do about it. Although Longao was already the master of the dragon sect and had fought against the four major forces alone, in the end, Longao was still a young boy who was not even 20 years old. When had he ever encountered such a situation? Brother Longao, I've admired you for a long time. I'm a straightforward person. I like you. I wonder if Brother Longao is willing to accept my love. Too valiant. Longao didn't dare to stay any longer. His body moved with the wind, and under everyone's shocked gazes, he disappeared without a trace. Longao's sudden departure had already made his attitude clear, but even so, Chrysanthemum was still unwilling to give up. It was not only Chrysanthemum, there were many girls around who liked heroes, but they were not as overbearing as Chrysanthemum. Somewhere in the Imperial City, Longao was speechless to the extreme. He had seen valiant people before, but he had never seen such a valiant person. He would rather fight with an expert than encounter such a thing. In the end, he was still a very pure person. Mr. Longao, please. The master has been waiting for you for a long time. He wasn't surprised at all. No matter what, this was the Imperial City. If Duan he didn't know that he had entered the Imperial City, then his position as the Imperial City's city lord would be a little too poor. Since he was already here, Longao didn't plan to hide. He followed the Imperial City's disciples to the Imperial City's headquarters. Inside the Imperial City, Duan He and Duan Kai were already sitting in the pavilion. When Longao arrived, there wasn't any anger or killing intent on their faces. It was as if Longao was really an honored guest of the Imperial City. One had to know that Longao had killed Duan Tianfeng. The entire 9 states knew about it, but Duan He and Duan Kai acted as if nothing had happened. One couldn't help but admire their acting skills. They had already reached the level of perfection. Master Long, we are honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not coming out to meet you. Longao despised the fake smiles of the 2 people in his heart. However, he still had a smile on his face as he said, "This time, I am indebted to the Imperial City for your invitation." After entering the pavilion, Longao, Duan He, and Duan Kai sat down. They picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. Longao smiled and said, "This is really good tea. Master Long is very knowledgeable. This is top-grade Bilyukun. It is extremely rare. I hope Master Long doesn't dislike it." "I wouldn't dare." Longao and the Imperial City were sworn enemies. When they met, it was either you die or I die. However, in this strange situation, the 2 sides seemed to be friends. Duan He and Duan Kai didn't mention it. Longao also didn't mention it. "Master Duan, may I know why you have invited me this time?" Longao went straight to the point. He didn't want to talk nonsense. Duan He and Duan Kai seemed to understand Longao's meaning. Duan He smiled and said, "All right, since Master Long is a straightforward person, then I won't beat around the bush. Let's be frank. You killed my son, so you should be my mortal enemy." Longao didn't reply. As expected, the Imperial City didn't invite him to deal with him. Otherwise, he would have been attacked the moment he stepped into the Imperial City. There was no need to wait until now, unless the Imperial City had nothing better to do. For the sect, we can let bygones be bygones. Master Long, I believe you have some understanding of the situation in the spirit realm of the 9 states. Since that's the case, I'll go straight to the point. My Imperial City is prepared to form an alliance with your dragon sect to deal with the other 3 forces. When the time comes, we will dominate the spirit realm of the 9 states. What do you think? Master Duan, let's put aside our grudges for now. I don't object to a temporary alliance. I just want to ask why the Imperial City chose me. The 3rd-rank Long family, Nether Mansion, and Ethereal Palace seem to be stronger than the Dragon Sect. Regarding this point, Longao could not figure it out. He did not know what medicine the Imperial City was selling in their gourd. Master Long, you don't have to belittle yourself. Your potential and strength are there. I don't need to say more. I believe that if you and I work together, we can conquer the entire spirit realm of the 9 states. When the time comes, we will each take half of the spirit realm and mind our own business. What do you think? Since things had come to this point, Longao naturally wouldn't object. He nodded and said, "All right, since the Imperial City thinks so highly of the Dragon Sect, I agree on behalf of the Dragon Sect. We will now form an alliance to deal with the other 3 forces. I hope we can succeed." The 3 of them smiled. At this time, Duan Kai, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, "Master Long, I don't know if you have heard of a place called the Soul Break Valley." Longao shook his head. He had never heard of the Soul Break Valley that Duan Kai mentioned. However, Duan He was surprised. He didn't know why his father suddenly mentioned the Soul Break Valley. Chapter 479. Master Dragon, Soul Break Valley is a restricted area in the Imperial City. Even the core disciples are not allowed to enter as they wish. Hearing Duan Kai's words, Longao was even more curious. Since Soul Break Valley was a restricted area in the Imperial City, why did Duan Kai tell him that he wanted him to enter Soul Break Valley? Longao was more or less on guard. No matter what, Soul Break Valley was a restricted area in the Imperial City. If he were to enter rashly, who knew what would happen? As if he could read Longao's mind, Duan Kai smiled and said, "Master Dragon, there's a super weapon in Soul Break Valley and extremely strong spiritual energy. If you can enter it, it should not be a problem for you to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Brother Duan, there is something I do not understand." Since Soul Break Valley is a restricted area in the Imperial City, why does the Imperial City not enter Soul Break Valley to retrieve the super weapon? There is a slim chance of survival. What do you mean by that? To be honest, Master Dragon, Soul Break Valley is very dangerous. If you are not careful, you will lose your life. Hearing this, Longao was even more surprised. After all, Duan Kai's meaning was very clear. Soul Break Valley was very dangerous, and even the people in the Imperial City might not be able to enter it. Master Dragon, when we discovered Soul Break Valley, we also tried to enter it. However, in the end, we were unable to obtain the treasures inside. However, a few seniors did manage to break through in Soul Break Valley. Brother Duan, if you have anything to say, please speak your mind. Master Dragon, to be honest, since we have already joined forces, I hope that you can become stronger. To be honest, with your current strength, you are no match for an illusionary divine stage martial artist. Longao didn't say anything and just sat there quietly. That is why I hope that Master Dragon can enter Soul Break Valley. If you can break through, that would be great. He snorted in his heart. Regarding Duan He and Duan Kai's intentions, how could Longao not know? There were treasures in Soul Break Valley that could allow one to break through. However, it was very dangerous. If one was not careful, one would be doomed eternally. Duan Kai was very cunning. If he entered the Soul Break Valley and survived, the alliance between the Imperial City and the Dragon Sect would continue. At most, he would feel unhappy. But if he died in there, then everything would be fine. He had to admit that Duan He and Duan Kai were indeed sly old foxes. They couldn't defeat him head-on, so they used such a despicable method. If it was someone else, they would definitely not agree, but Longao was a man. He nodded and said, "If that is the case, then I will respectfully accept. When can we enter?" "Anytime." "Alright, then let's do it now. I'm going to enter the Valley of Death immediately. Come with me." Hearing that Longao wanted to immediately enter Soul Break Valley, Duan Kai's face lit up with joy. He immediately got up and led Longao to Soul Break Valley. Soul Break Valley, forbidden area of the Imperial City. Ever since the Imperial City had found the Soul Break Valley, very few people had entered it. Duan Kai didn't tell Longao the truth, because once you entered the Soul Break Valley, you would die 9 times out of 10. Very few people were able to come out alive. It was because of this that Duan Kai came up with such a plan. Just as Longao had guessed, Duan Kai had 2 motives for letting him enter the Soul Break Valley. Firstly, if Longao could come out alive, the alliance would continue. Secondly, if he couldn't come out alive, it would be considered as getting rid of a thorn in his side. Outside the Soul Break Valley, Duan Kai suppressed the laughter in his heart, and said indifferently, "Master Dragon, this time when you enter the Soul Break Valley, you must be careful. I will wait here for your triumphant return." Longao couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense. After a few polite words, he entered the Soul Break Valley. "Father, there are treasures and abundant spiritual energy in the Soul Break Valley. If Longao enters and obtains the treasures, or if he really breaks through to the illusionary divine stage, wouldn't we be indirectly helping him?" Until now, Duan He still couldn't understand why his father would do this. This time, when his father invited Longao to enter the Imperial City, Duan He had already vehemently opposed it. Now, Duan He actually allowed Longao to enter the Soul Break Valley. If Longao really broke through to the illusionary divine stage and obtained the treasures, wouldn't the Imperial City suffer a double loss? Duan He was very wary of Longao. Although Longao was just an illusionary martial artist, Longao's talent and potential were there for all to see. All along, Duan He had strongly advocated for Longao to be killed. Other than being wary of Longao's talent and potential, more importantly, Longao had killed his son, his most beloved son. Duan He would never forget this debt. However, Duan Kai waved his hands and said with a gloomy face, "I believe you know what the Soul Break Valley represents. I don't believe that Longao can come out alive after entering the Soul Break Valley. Father, that's enough. If you don't sacrifice your child, you can't trap the wolf. No one in the Imperial City can take away the treasures in the Soul Break Valley. I believe that Longao can't do it either. This time, let's take a gamble. He sighed deeply in his heart. He knew that since his father had already made up his mind, this matter was settled. Although he also believed that Longao would not leave the Soul Break Valley and would definitely die in there, he did not know why, but he had a bad premonition. It was as though Longao could really come out. Father, since Longao is here personally, why don't we just kill him directly? He could not understand this point. There were many illusionary divine stage martial artists in the Imperial City. If they wanted to kill Longao, it would be a piece of cake. Why did they have to do this? Kai said helplessly. If we could, we would have killed him long ago. I received news that the Long family seems to think highly of Longao. If we don't kill him openly and choose to do it now, the Long family will blame us and the Imperial City will be in big trouble. Long family? Hearing his father mention the Long family, he was shocked. He finally understood his father's intention. He wanted to make use of the Soul Break Valley to kill Longao. By then, even if the Long family wanted to pursue the matter, it would be impossible. The reason why the Rank 3 Long family, Serene Hell Mansion and Ethereal Palace are not willing to take action is because of the Long family. However, if the four of us can work together, a small Longao will be nothing. It's a pity that we all have our own plans and no one wants to be the first to take action. This gave Longao an opportunity. Before he could say anything, Kai continued. The Soul Break Valley is a forbidden area in the Imperial City. Longao is willing to enter it, and he can't blame us. By then, even if the Long family investigates the matter, they can't blame us. So you should understand now, right? He nodded his head. If he still did not understand, he might as well commit suicide. It was because of this that he prayed that Longao would die in the Soul Break Valley. This way, everything would be fine. P.S. Let me tell everyone a piece of good news. After Xiaojio's efforts, from today until next Tuesday, there will be a 5-day trial with 10 chapters per day. Everyone, please tip and vote. Otherwise, if the results don't rise, Xiaojio will have no choice in the future. If everyone tips $1 or $2, it won't be much. Chapter 480. Soul Break Valley, Forbidden Grounds of the Imperial City. The moment Longao stepped into the Soul Break Valley, he was immediately shocked. He had to admit that the spiritual energy in the Soul Break Valley was much more abundant than outside. However, there was a faint air current in the air. Once absorbed, it would directly devour one's soul. That's right, it was not an attack, but a direct devour. Longao did not dare to be careless. He immediately channeled all the energy in his body to resist the air current. Luckily, the air current was not very strong. As long as he was careful, he would not be sucked into his body. After heaving a sigh of relief, Longao slowly walked towards the depths of the Soul Break Valley. Longao would definitely not believe everything that he and Kai said. There were only 2 reasons why he chose to enter the Soul Break Valley. The first reason was that he had entered the Imperial City alone. If he did not agree, he did not know what would happen to the Imperial City. This was because Longao was 100% sure that there was an even stronger existence in the Imperial City. The second reason was that Longao wanted to try entering the Soul Break Valley. Even if it was a matter of life and death, he wanted to train himself well. Longao was very clear that he had reached a bottleneck in his current realm. If he wanted to break through, he would have to gain enlightenment. Actually, there was another way, which was to train himself through life and death. Once he broke through to the second transformation of the 9 revolving reincarnation technique, he would naturally break through to the illusionary divine stage. Soul Break Valley. If one did not enter it, one would not understand the meaning of the Soul Break Valley. When Longao stepped into the Soul Break Valley, he finally understood why it was called the Soul Break Valley. The meaning of the Soul Break Valley was simple. The air current in the surroundings would forcefully enter one's body and start to devour one's soul. Once one relaxed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Unknowingly, Longao had already entered the depths of the Soul Break Valley. There were rocks everywhere and chilly winds blew, giving one a creepy feeling. Before Longao could react, countless spirits appeared around him. Their jade-green eyes stared at Longao as they rushed towards him. Damn! Longao cursed in his heart. He could clearly sense that the spirit army that suddenly appeared around him was all at the Nihility realm. It would be fine if there were only one or two of them, but the problem now was that there were tens of thousands of them, and there were even world emperors among them. What did this mean? The blood-sucking manic saber instantly slashed out, bringing with it the power of heaven and earth and the power of lightning tribulation. This was because both the power of heaven and earth and the power of lightning tribulation were the nemesis of ghosts. Wherever the saber light passed, it would always bring about a rain of blood, accompanied by miserable and angry roars. Longao didn't show the slightest bit of mercy because he knew that being merciful to the enemy was being cruel to oneself. If he relaxed even a little bit, he would be devoured by the spirit and die without a burial ground. In a short period of time, Longao had already killed thousands of spirits, but gradually, dozens of World Emperor spirits surrounded Longao. If it was one or two World Emperor spirits, Longao could still deal with them calmly. But the problem now was that 30 to 50 World Emperor spirits were swarming him. There were spirits everywhere. Longao couldn't dodge, except for a life-and-death battle. Kill! The blood-sucking manic saber in his hand didn't stop at all. Each slash was faster and stronger than the previous. The saber light was like lightning, constantly slashing in all directions. The spirits weren't afraid of death at all. They were still like moths to a flame, fiercely attacking Longao. Longao cursed again in his heart. He never thought that the spirits in Death Valley would be so powerful. Moreover, they were pouring in endlessly. If this was really the case, when would it end? From all directions, there was an endless stream of spirits, and the number of World Emperor spirits was increasing. Longao knew that if this continued, even if he was not devoured, he would be exhausted to death. What should I do? In Longao's mind, he kept thinking of all sorts of methods to see if there was any way to exterminate the spirits here. In desperation, Longao finally used his self-created martial technique, Heaven and Earth Sorrow. A terrifying tornado swept all the spirits around with the aura of heaven and earth. It was still the same sentence. If there were 1 or 2, 3 or 4, or even a dozen ghosts, once Longao used heaven and earth sorrow, he could definitely eliminate them. But the problem now was that there were ghosts everywhere in all directions. There were countless of them. Even if heaven and earth sorrow couldn't devour the spirits around, Longao couldn't always use heaven and earth sorrow. In that case, it would be strange if he didn't die of exhaustion. Inside the tornado, the speed and strength of all the spirits were greatly reduced. Under the shroud of the aura of heaven and earth, Longao was like a god of war. He began to kill in all directions. Heaven and earth sorrow continued to devour the spirits, one after another. It was like a moth flying into a flame. In fact, what made Longao most depressed was not the endless stream of specters, nor was it the appearance of thousands of specters. What made Longao truly depressed was that he could not absorb these specters at all, nor could he refine them into soul slaves. In other words, he could only eliminate these so-called spirits directly. Longao was very clear in his heart that if he could devour these so-called spirits, and refine them into power, or refine them into soul slaves, then his strength would definitely increase by several folds. It would also have indescribable benefits for the development of the sect. Thinking about it, if he could refine soul slaves, once he succeeded, this corpse slave army would be terrifying. Not daring to be the slightest bit careless, Longao had just used heaven and earth sorrow, and directly used heaven and earth sorrow for the second time. There was not the slightest gap between the first and the second. The tornado crazily swallowed the surrounding spirits, but the number of spirits, did not decrease. There were too many of them. Endless spirits swarmed in from all directions. Longao knew very well that if this continued, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao really couldn't figure out where these endless specters came from. Because as far as the eye could see, the surroundings were a stretch of desolation. To shoot a man, shoot the horse first. To capture the bandits, capture the king first. Longao knew that just killing the spirits wouldn't solve the root cause. The only way was to find the origin. Only then could he stop the spirits from coming out continuously. With a fierce slash, Longao's body also darted out. Everywhere he passed, there were roars and screams. Longao ignored all of them and increased his speed. Longao was constantly looking for the origin, but no matter how he looked, he was still unable to find where the origin was. Could it be that he was really going to be exhausted to death? Of course, Longao wouldn't choose to give up. He killed the spirits that swarmed in from all directions while searching for the origin. Chapter 481. An endless stream of ghosts emerged from all directions. They had no spiritual consciousness, and only knew how to attack. It was precisely because of this that Longao seemed even more anxious. The more time he delayed, the more danger he would be in. The blood-sucking blade in his hand was still constantly slashing out, one blade after another. The blade light was endless. Just when Longao was extremely annoyed and didn't know what to do, he suddenly discovered that there was a strange pattern not far away, and these so-called ghosts emerged from this strange pattern. Strange pattern? Longao didn't hesitate at all. He arrived in front of the strange pattern in a few steps, and without hesitation, the blood-sucking blade in his hand had already fiercely slashed out. Boom! Before Longao could react, the blade light that he had just slashed out instantly rebounded, and his body was directly sent flying. His face instantly turned pale, and he finally stopped with great difficulty. After being rebounded by the strange pattern, Longao was seriously injured, and the surrounding ghosts took advantage of this opportunity. Startled, he tried to stop them in time, but it was still a step too late. 7 or 8 ghosts invaded his body and began to devour his soul. Fortunately, he had cultivated a soul attack, otherwise, just one attack would have almost taken Longao's life. The soul attack began to counterattack the 7 or 8 ghosts devouring. Barely stopping, Longao didn't continue to attack the ghosts. He fiercely forced away the ghosts around him, and quickly arrived in front of the strange pattern again. This time, Longao didn't act rashly. The blood-sucking blade in his hand fiercely forced the ghosts around him to attack. Longao discovered that as long as the strange pattern flashed, ghosts would appear. Totem power! Totem power? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao's heart suddenly rejoiced. Immediately communicating with the Dragon Seal space, Longao went straight to the point and asked, Long Fu, what is totem power? Master, the Shirpatian you met before was an expert of the Wanshou sect, and totem power is unique to the Wanshou sect? Wanshou sect? Longao finally understood that the totem power belonged to the Wanshou sect. In that case, why would the totem power appear in the Imperial City's Soul Break Valley? Although he didn't know, Longao was sure that the Wanshou sect didn't know that there was totem power in the Imperial City's Soul Break Valley. Otherwise, the Wanshou sect wouldn't let the Imperial City go. Long Fu, what should I do now? He had no idea what totem power was. It could be said that he knew nothing. Longao knew that he could only ask Long Fu for help now. No matter what, he had to first deal with the spirits that kept flashing out of the totem. Otherwise, if the spirits kept coming out, even if he was not swallowed by the spirits, he would be exhausted to death. Long to the totem power to the wand to the snake totem power. Long Fu did not continue, but the meaning of his words was very clear. Longao wasn't a fool, of course he knew what Long Fu meant. Not daring to have the slightest hesitation, a dragon roar resounded. Long Chang's huge body suddenly appeared in the air. The dragon roar covered the whole area. Wherever the dragon breath passed, all the spirits disappeared. Fuck! Cursing in his heart. Longao never thought that Long Chang would be the nemesis of these spirits. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble, risking his life to kill these spirits. Feeling depressed, Longao stopped Long Chang. One man and one dragon stared at the totem on the ground. Totem. Until now, Longao still didn't know what kind of power the totem was. But from these spirits, he could see that the totem power of the Wanshou sect was no small matter. Longao's soul entered the dragon seal space and asked straightforwardly. Long Fu, tell me about the totem. Know yourself and know your enemy. You can win every battle. Otherwise, if you don't even know what a totem is, how can you deal with a totem? Master, the totem is the unique power of the Wanshou sect. According to legend, the totem is a kind of mysterious power that can be achieved through the union of man and beast. Strictly speaking, the totem power of the Wanshou sect is similar to that of the Long family's dragon warriors. So that's how it is. According to Long Fu, the power of the totem was the same as the power of the dragon warriors. No wonder the Wanshou sect wanted to replace the dragon clan. If the Wanshou sect obtained the Dragon Valley, wouldn't they have the power of the dragon totem? In that case, how many people in the world would be able to resist the Wanshou sect? Long Fu, what did you sense? Master, I just sensed that there is indeed a supreme treasure here. Moreover, it is quite evil. If you can obtain it and make good use of it, I believe that this treasure will be of great benefit to you. Longao's heart was immediately overjoyed. Regarding treasures, Longao never refused. Long Fu, how can I obtain this treasure? Master, this treasure is under the totem, but you have to be careful. If this treasure backfires on you, you will only become a puppet without the slightest chance of survival. Hearing this, Longao was startled. After leaving the dragon seal space, Longao didn't dare to be careless. After all, Long Fu had just said that this treasure was extremely evil. If it backfired on him, the consequences would be unimaginable. Because of this, Longao followed Long Fu's instructions and walked towards the totem step by step. He didn't forcefully break the totem, but relied on the dragon breath in his body and Long Chang's strength to suppress and break the totem's power. According to Long Fu, the strength of the dragon was the nemesis of the snake totem. Only this method could forcefully break the snake totem's power. Longao was very clear that his luck was really good. If it was other totems' power, such as the wolf totem or the tiger totem, Long Chang's strength alone wouldn't be able to break it. Sure enough, the dragon force fiercely collided with the snake totem, but there wasn't even the slightest collision. The snake totem was already broken, and a huge black passage appeared inside. Longao took a deep breath and glanced at Long Chang. He first sent Long Chang into the dragon seal space. At this time, Longao didn't have the slightest hesitation. He took a step forward and disappeared into the totem. Soul Break Valley was very quiet. Chilly winds blew, like a mass grave, giving people a gloomy feeling. Longao entered Soul Break Valley this time and accidentally encountered the totem's power. He didn't know whether it was a good or bad thing, but Longao already knew one thing, and that was the Myriad Beast sect and the totem's power. In the end, the totem's power of the Myriad Beast sect was similar to that of the Dragon Warrior with a Long family. Strictly speaking, the Dragon Warrior with a Long family was far above the Myriad Beast sect's totem. No matter what, the Dragon clan was one of the most powerful existences in the world. Ordinary totems couldn't compete with the Dragon clan, unless it was a top-level totem. P.S. Thank you to the top 3 fans of the fan list for their tips. They are Qianwen, Noble Shamate, brother holding hand and sister growing old together. Thank you for your tips. Little 9 thanks. Chapter 482. Below Soul Break Valley. It was a dark space, like a huge palace. It was hard to breathe, it felt very stifling. Longao did not dare to be careless, because according to Long Fu's senses, this evil treasure could be taken away at any time. Master, since things have reached this point, I will not hide it from you. Nodding his head, Longao obviously knew what Long Fu was going to say. Master, if I'm not mistaken, this place should be left behind by the Wanshou sex experts, and the treasure here is called the Death Knell. Death Knell? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao's heart thumped. Not to mention the power of the Death Knell, just the name of the Death Knell was domineering enough. The Death Knell, born from heaven and earth, is extremely powerful. When the bell rings, death will descend. Long Fu, how can I obtain the Death Knell? Longao was somewhat impatient, because the temptation of the Death Knell was too great. It would be a lie to say that he did not want to obtain it. According to Long Fu's method, Longao had to find the Death Knell first. In the dark space, there was a huge stone placed in the middle. It was purple-red, emitting traces of strange qi. It was the so-called totem power. Divine Dao Aura? At this time, Longao seemed to have sensed something. He was very surprised, because he never thought that there would be Divine Dao Aura here. Of course, he knew what Divine Dao Aura meant. Longao was completely sure that the owner of this place was a Divine Dao expert. Moreover, it was a Divine Dao expert of the Wanshou sect, a Divine Dao expert with the snake totem power. Divine Dao experts were the strongest existences in heaven and earth. Longao was pleasantly surprised. A treasure left behind by a Divine Dao expert. He could imagine how powerful it would be. In the middle of the boulder, there was a small black bell the size of a fist. Without asking, Longao had already guessed that this was the death knell that Long Fu had mentioned. Long Fu's meaning was simple. If he wanted to take away the death knell, he had to borrow Long Chang's power. Otherwise, he would definitely be devoured by the death knell, and the consequences would be unimaginable. It was precisely because of this that Longao had successfully obtained the death knell with the help of the dragon god's arm. Taking a deep breath, Longao poured his soul into the bell of death. At this moment, an ear-piercing bell sound rang out. It was as if the heaven and earth were about to mourn. It was very terrifying. Not to mention others, even Longao himself felt his heart tremble. It was hard to imagine what would happen if he suddenly used the death knell against an enemy. Dragon Clan's brat, you dared to steal my death knell, you really don't know life from death. This old man wants to see how you are going to take away my death knell. Hearing the sudden voice, Longao was shocked, because he had already guessed who the owner of this voice was. Without a doubt, it was the Thousand Beasts Sex Divine Dao expert, the owner of this place, the owner of the death knell. As expected. Just now, when Longao felt the Divine Dao Aura here, he had already guessed that this Divine Dao expert might not have completely fallen, and his remnant soul was still there. Now, it was indeed so. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. After all, the other party was a genuine Divine Dao expert. Even if it was just a remnant soul, its power was not small and could not be underestimated. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared on the boulder. It was an illusory old man, sitting quietly as if he had never left. What grade of Long family's disciple are you? 6th grade Long family's disciple. Humph, nonsense. The illusory old man suddenly burst out a powerful Divine Dao Aura, directly suppressing Longao, but Longao did not resist. Instead, he withdrew his heaven and earth aura. In this way, on the surface, he looked like he was in pain, but in reality, there was no substantial injury. Are you really a 6th grade Long family's disciple? I have no reason to lie to you, believe it or not. Seemingly very surprised, the old man asked, Do you know who I am? Divine Dao. This time the old man was even more surprised, and said with admiration, A small 6th grade Long family can produce a genius like you. It's already very good. Boy, are you willing to worship me as your teacher? Without waiting for Longao to speak, the illusory old man continued, As long as you are willing to worship me as your teacher, I can teach you the Totem Dao, and let you become a Divine Dao expert, controlling the life and death of the world's spirit beasts. How about it? One had to admit that the illusory old man's offer was too tempting. An ordinary person would not be able to resist. It was precisely because of this that Longao was finally sure that the illusory old man in front of him was a divine Tao expert of Wanshou's sect. There was no doubt about it. According to Long Fu, Wanshou's sect and the Long family were natural enemies. Wanshou's sect wanted to occupy Dragon Valley and form the Dragon Totem clan of Wanshou's sect, but this matter could not be realized. In any case, the Long family and the Dragon clan were too powerful. To defeat the Long family was not an easy matter. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely agree. Worshipping a divine Tao expert as their teacher was something that everyone dreamed of. But Longao was not a human. He shook his head and said, "I am the master of Dragon Sect. I cannot worship you as my teacher, please forgive me." The illusory old man was not angry as expected. He was very surprised and asked, "Dragon Sect? You mean to say that you have established a Dragon Sect?" As everyone knew, there was only one Long family in the world, and all the disciples of the Long family were not allowed to start a new sect. Once they were discovered by the Long family, they would be directly killed. There was no room for negotiation. It was precisely because of this that the illusory old man was very surprised. He did not know whether the young man in front of him was crazy or not. He actually dared to go against the Long family and establish a so-called Dragon Sect. This was completely going against the Long family. Forgive me for not being able to tell you this. I can only say one thing: the enmity between Wanshou's sect and Long family has nothing to do with me. Longao was not a fool. He did not want to be a fish in the moat. Whether it was Wanshou's sect or Long family, they were not people that he could contend against. If the two clans fought and he was implicated, wouldn't he cry to death? Nodding his head, the illusory old man said, "You are right. Since you have established Dragon Sect, the enmity between Wanshou's sect and Long family will not affect you, but this time you trespassed into my forbidden area and took away my death knell. I want to ask, how do you intend to settle this debt?" "Senior, this time I entered Soulbreak Valley because I had no other choice. Since I was able to come here and obtain your death knell, it means that we are fated. Since we are fated, this debt will be much easier to settle. What do you say?" Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, the illusory old man suddenly burst into laughter. His face was full of praise. Chapter 483. "Kid, I won't kill you just because of your courage." Hearing this, Longao let out a long sigh of relief. Although he was very confident in his own strength, Longao had self-awareness. With his current strength, it was simply impossible to be a match for a supreme Tao martial artist, even if the supreme Tao martial artist in front of him only existed in a soul state. Supreme Tao was supreme Tao. The strongest existence in the world was no joke. "Kid, since you don't want to be my disciple, then you can't get my inheritance. Don't you regret it?" Without waiting for Longao to speak, the illusory old man continued, "I can guarantee that as long as you can get my inheritance, I will make you a supreme Tao warrior. I want to step onto the supreme Tao warrior myself." Nodding his head, the illusory old man did not continue to talk nonsense and said, "In that case, I won't force you. Kid, since you already know about Wanshou's sect, then I'll get straight to the point. I'm a heavenly god from Wanshou's sect's Snake Totem clan. I accidentally fell and had no choice but to seal myself here." Heavenly god? Hearing the other party's identity, Longao was shocked, because he never thought that the illusory old man in front of him would be a heavenly god. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, it would be hard to believe. The 5 realms of Supreme Tao were Nihility God, Spirit Condensation, Human God, Earth God, and Heavenly God. In other words, Heavenly God was already standing at the peak of martial arts, the pinnacle of the continent. Because of this, Longao was a little shocked. The Snake Totem Supreme Tao warrior in front of him was actually at the peak of martial arts, a Heavenly God. "Senior, you want me to help you find your inheritance?" "That's right. For so many years I have always hoped that the disciples of Wanshou's sect, especially the Snake Totem disciples, could come in, but after so many years, I still couldn't get my wish." Helplessly shrugging his shoulders, Longao did not speak, because luck played a big part in this. Kid, my request is very simple. As long as you can help me find my inheritance, I will give you the death knell. How about it? The illusory old man had already taken a step back. Such a good thing was hard to come by. But Longao didn't immediately agree. Instead he said, Senior, if you want me to bring the inheritance to the Wanshou sect, I can tell you now, I can't do it, but I can return the death knell to you. Although he was extremely reluctant, Longao didn't want to provoke the Wanshou sect, not to mention it was the inheritance of a heavenly god. If the Wanshou sect found out about this, it would be very difficult for him to escape. Longao was not an idiot. Of course, he would not play with fire. It was because of this that Longao had no choice but to give up on the death knell. The illusory old man seemed to be a little surprised, but he immediately understood the other party's meaning and nodded in understanding, saying, When I was expelled from the Wanshou sect, strictly speaking, I was no longer a member of the Wanshou sect. Brat, I only have one request. Help me choose a suitable successor, no matter who it is. No matter who it is. Could it be that even the disciples of my dragon sect can do it? All right, I'll leave the inheritance in your hands. Within a year, you must find a successor. You trust me so much? I trust you. As for why, you don't need to ask me. I don't know either. Perhaps this is what they call fate. Fate? Hearing the word fate, Longao nodded and did not waste any more words. Instead, he said, All right, I promise you. As long as I find a suitable successor, I will not delay. You've already reached the pinnacle of the illusionary realm? With regards to this, Longao did not hide anything. This was because with the other party's strength, it was impossible for him not to see through his true strength. He said helplessly, I've been stuck in this realm for a long time and have been unable to break through to the illusionary divine stage. If Longao's words were heard by others, it was unknown whether or not they would suffer the fiercest contempt. No matter what, Longao's cultivation was known to all. It seemed that he had not been stuck in the pinnacle of the illusionary realm for too long. I've already sensed your body. It's very strange. I've never seen a body like yours before, so I can't help you break through. I understand. Longao did not feel unsatisfied. After all, he was very clear about his desolate body. Especially after cultivating the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. If he wanted to break through, he would have to break through to the 2nd revolving of the 9 revolving reincarnation technique. Otherwise, even a martial artist of the divine stage might not be able to help him. Lad, this is my inheritance. I hope you can find a suitable successor. Receiving the inheritance crystal, Longao nodded and said, Don't worry, I will. Until now, Longao still could not believe that he had met a godly spirit who had passed him his inheritance, and hoped that he could find a successor. Longao had already decided that the Shinto inheritance would wait until he returned to the sect. He would definitely find a suitable person to accept the inheritance. If that was the case, he believed that in a few years, the first Shinto warrior would appear in the dragon sect. At that time, the 4 major forces would be nothing in front of him. Lad, I've already passed you the godly spirit inheritance, and I've also given you the death knell. You have to help me settle this matter. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Nodding his head, Longao did not say anything else. Following which, Longao left the dark space. At this moment, the illusory old man suddenly laughed coldly. His laughter was filled with coldness and cunning. After waiting for so many years, I finally have the chance to go out. Ha ha! After saying that, the illusory old man's spirit disappeared without a trace. After a short while, Longao had already left the dark space and returned to the Soul Break Valley. The snake totem had already been destroyed, and it was impossible for the ghost to continue to appear. However, Longao did not leave immediately. No matter what, it had not even been a day since he entered the Soul Break Valley. If he swaggered out like this, the Imperial City would definitely not let him go. Although Duan Kai had made it sound good, he had allowed him to enter the Soul Break Valley to break through. If he really broke through to the illusionary divine stage, Duan Kai would be the first person to not let him off. It would be a lie if he said that he was not tempted by the inheritance of a godly spirit. After all, an enlightened god martial artist was already considered to be at the peak of martial arts. However, Longao was worried that if he were to inherit the inheritance, he would not be able to break through to the enlightened god stage. Wouldn't that mean that he would never be able to reach the peak of the illusionary divine stage? Longao's dream had always been to break through to the peak of martial arts. Therefore, regardless of whether it was the inheritance of a godly spirit or a great emperor, he rejected all of them. If not, he would not have waited until now. Chapter 484. In the end, Longao decided to give up on the divine Tao inheritance. Longao began to ponder who he should give the divine Tao inheritance to. Longao was a normal person. Of course, he would be selfish. Of course, he would want to give the divine Tao inheritance to Aoshue, his grandfather or his parents. However, Longao Gong was very clear about one principle, which was that the divine Tao inheritance had to find the right person, so that it could display the greatest effect. Longao did not continue to think about the divine Tao inheritance. Instead, he began to absorb the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual qi. Although the 9-cycle reincarnation technique had not broken through, Longao was still very clear about the change in quantity. Outside the Soul Break Valley, in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Duan Kai and Duan He seemed to be impatient. In the eyes of Duan He and Duan Kai, the chances of Longao coming out alive from the Soul Break Valley this time was almost 0. However, the two were still a little worried and did not leave for 3 days. "Father, do you think Longao can come out?" 55. Duan Kai actually wanted to say 19, but at this time, the two's faces suddenly changed. It was as if they had seen the most unbelievable thing in the world. Longao came out? Looking at the young man coming out of the Soul Break Valley, both Duan He and Duan Kai were dumbfounded. The two of them did not know what had happened. "Long Zong, you came out?" "Nonsense," Longao cursed the two in his heart. It was all due to luck that he survived this disaster. Otherwise, he would have been completely cheated by the two of them. Although he was cursing in his heart, Longao's face was still calm. This was because he knew that if he wanted to ally with the Imperial City, he would first deal with the other 3 forces. When the time was right, it would not be too late to deal with the Imperial City. "The two of you, don't you want me to come out?" We do. We are really happy to see Master Long come out." Lying through his teeth, Longao's heart fiercely despised him. At this time, Longao seemed to think of something and said, "The two of you, I didn't find any treasure in the Soul Break Valley. The heaven and earth spirit chi is very abundant, but I still haven't broken through." Sigh. With a deep sigh, Duan Kai and Duan He heaved a sigh of relief after hearing that Longao had not broken through to the illusionary divine stage. No matter what, Longao's successful escape from the Soul Break Valley was already a huge blow to them. If Longao were to continue breaking through to the illusionary divine stage, the two of them would have no choice but to die. "Master Dragon, since you haven't found the treasure, it means that your destiny hasn't arrived yet. You can't force it." Longao almost laughed out loud in his heart. He had seen pretentious people before, but he had never seen such a pretentious person. It was too fake, but Longao endured it in the end. The 3 of them returned to the pavilion and sat down. "Master Dragon, since you have yet to reach the illusionary divine stage, why don't we talk about the alliance first?" "Old fox." Longao nodded his head and said, "No problem. I would like to ask the two of you about the alliance between the Imperial City and the Dragon Sect. What are your thoughts?" Duan Kai and Duan He cursed in their hearts. Duan Kai smiled and said, "Master Dragon, I believe you know the situation of the 4 great organizations. It is impossible for them to completely destroy the Class 3 Dragon family, Serene Hell Mansion and Ethereal Palace." Longao nodded his head. He knew this very well. Longao did not speak and only listened quietly. He knew that Duan He and Duan Kai had already thought of a plan. Otherwise, they would not have sat down to talk to him. Master Dragon, what I mean is very simple. If the Dragon Sect wants to join forces with the Imperial City to deal with the other three great organizations, they have to do one thing first. What is it? It is very simple. Since Master Dragon has already decided to enter the spirit domain of the 9 states, it is better to do it sooner rather than later. With the Imperial City as a cover, I believe that the Dragon Sect will be able to enter the spirit domain of the 9 states in less than a month. Longao immediately understood what Duan Kai meant. It was very simple. The Dragon Sect would move to the spirit domain of the 9 states. As for the location, it would be the so-called City of Sin. There was no problem with moving, but Longao had to consider the consequences. Once the Dragon Sect entered the spirit domain of the 9 states, there would be no way out. By then, if the 3 great organizations and the Imperial City turned against him, he would be attacked from both sides. The consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Longao did not answer immediately. Duan Kai and Duan He were not anxious at all. They looked at each other and saw a trace of coldness in each other's eyes. If he agreed, it would be very dangerous. The Dragon Sect could be doomed at any time. If he chose not to agree, he would lose a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Should he choose to agree or not? Longao did not know what to do. Master Dragon, do you have any concerns? Yes, the strength of the 3 great organizations is there. If I rashly enter the spirit domain of the 9 states, the 3 great organizations will catch me like a turtle in a jar. I have no way to resist. Longao spoke the truth. Because things had reached this point, if there was a slight mistake, things would become very troublesome. Moreover, the Imperial City was still unknown. In the end, Longao did not want to take the risk. If he was alone, he would not care. At worst, he would die. However, the problem now was different. He had the entire Dragon Sect behind him. Once there was a problem, tens of thousands of people would be killed. He did not dare to take this gamble. Duan Kaisen cursed in his heart, but his face was very calm as he said, Dragon Sect, you don't have to worry about this. Later, I will inform the world that the Imperial City and the Dragon Sect have formed an alliance. If that's the case, Dragon Sect Master, can you relax a little? Scratching his heart, Longao finally gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I agree. However, I have 3 conditions. Otherwise, there is nothing to discuss. Master Dragon, you are too much. We are now in an alliance, not relying on each other. What right do you have to raise 3 conditions? Waving his hand to stop Duan He, Duan Kai said, Say it. I hope Master Dragon will not go too far. Otherwise, even if we do not form an alliance, we will not agree. The more Duan He and Duan Kai acted like this, the happier Longao was. Because only in this way could he be sure that the Imperial City was really willing to form an alliance with him this time, and not trying to set him up. However, he had to be vigilant. The first condition is that the Dragon Sect must enter the spirit domain of the 9 states, and the Imperial City must give up a teleportation formation. This cannot be refused. Otherwise, I would rather not form an alliance. Longao had already thought it through. As long as the Dragon Sect entered the spirit domain of the 9 states, they must first have a teleportation formation. Otherwise, he would rather not enter. Because without a teleportation formation, once the battle started, it would be a big problem to leave safely. He had to think of a way out. P.S. The 6th chapter has been delivered. There is an urgent matter. The remaining 4 chapters will be delivered one by one after the wee hours of the morning. Everyone, please send me your tickets and tips. Chapter 485. No problem. Duan Kai didn't even think about it and agreed. It was because of this that Longao was very surprised. He never thought that Duan Kai would agree so quickly. Master Long, tell me the remaining two conditions. Duan Kai seemed to have expected Longao to raise this condition. Otherwise, Longao would be too weak. The second condition is that if the Imperial City dares to betray the Dragon Sect, I will step into the Imperial City in the future and slaughter everyone. As for the third condition, once we destroy the three forces, we will each take half of the world. The normal spirit domain will also belong to the Dragon Sect. There are no problems with the three conditions. In that case, the matter of our alliance is settled. What do you think? No problem. Longao didn't continue to stay. After all, the matter of the alliance could be big or small. He had to make arrangements as soon as he returned. Looking at the figure gradually leaving, Duan he couldn't understand. He asked, Father, are you really going to ally with Longao? Duan he couldn't forget that Longao killed his son. If his father didn't give him a look, Duan he believed that he would have found someone to deal with Longao. He wouldn't have waited until now. How could Duan Kai not know what his son was thinking? It would be a lie to say that he didn't want revenge. But Duan Kai knew that this wasn't the best time. Here, I know the hatred in your heart. I can tell you clearly that I also want revenge, but now is not the time. Why is that? With the Imperial City's strength, killing Longao isn't difficult. But as the Imperial City City Lord, you have to consider the interests of the Imperial City first, and not your own. Do you understand? Duan he seemed to have thought of something, but he still couldn't let go of this hatred. No matter what, his most beloved son was killed in the Imperial City. This was something that he couldn't swallow. No matter how much you can't let go of the hatred in your heart, you have to remember that we have to ally with the Dragon Sect and deal with the other three forces first. Father! Waving his hand, Duan Kai didn't give Duan he any chance to refute, and said coldly, This matter has been decided. You must always remember one thing, and that is that you will always be the Imperial City's city governor. After leaving the Imperial City, Longao did not linger. However, as soon as he left the Imperial City, he ran into a familiar face, who could be considered a friend. It was because of this person that Longao seemed to be surprised. Longao, come with me. I have something to tell you. Nodding, Longao left with Longchen. With their strength and speed, no one could follow them. At the peak of a mountain in the spirit region of the 9 states. Longao, I'm looking for you this time mainly because I want to fight with you. A battle? He seemed to be a little surprised because he had already shown mercy in the previous battle. It was impossible for Longchen to not know that with his current strength, he was no match for him. Since that was the case, why did Longchen still want to fight with him? At this time, Longao suddenly discovered that Longchen, who he hadn't seen for several months, seemed to have made a breakthrough in his cultivation. From a world king, not only had Longchen broken through to the world sovereign realm, but he had also reached the so-called peak of the world sovereign realm. But even so, with the difference in strength between him and Longchen, even if Longchen's cultivation had broken through to the peak of world emperor, he still wouldn't be his match. Longao knew this, so it was impossible for Longchen to not know. Longchen's actions left Longao a little confused. Longao, I've already gone to the Long family and entered the Dragon clan's ancestral hall to temper myself. To be honest, I've already awakened my innate supernatural ability, so I want to fight with you. So that's how it was. Longao wasn't surprised at all because Longchen had already said that those on the Dragon rankings had the qualifications to enter the Dragon clan's ancestral hall to awaken their innate supernatural ability. But there were very few people who could awaken their innate supernatural ability. Longao never imagined that Longchen would be able to awaken his innate supernatural ability. This in itself already proved just how great Longchen's talent was. Longao was even more certain that after Longchen successfully awakened his innate supernatural ability, he would be valued by the Long family, and his status would instantly skyrocket. Longao didn't feel the slightest bit of envy or jealousy. Instead, he was truly happy for Longchen. Longao nodded. He didn't refuse. After all, exchanging pointers wasn't necessarily a bad thing for them. Longao, before we fight, there's something I need to tell you. When I went to the Long family this time, I also asked around about the Long family's plans for you. I finally found some clues. Thank you for the trouble. Longao was overjoyed. He was now very concerned about the Long family's situation. No matter what, the Long family was the most powerful existence in the world. It wasn't something that the four major forces could compare to. Longao, I heard that the Long family has two voices. The first one wants to capture you and kill you on the spot. In their opinion, not only did you become a dragon warrior, you even established the dragon sect. You don't put the Long family in your eyes. Longao had already guessed what Longchen had said. As expected, there were many people in the Long clan who didn't like the establishment of the dragon sect. But what could they do? Longao knew that since he had decided to establish the dragon sect, he wasn't afraid of the Long family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have established the dragon sect so decisively. The second voice wants to kill you. Moreover, they want to observe you carefully. Once you can establish a place for yourself in the world of the 9 provinces, the Long family won't do anything to you. They might even focus on nurturing you. Focus on nurturing me? Longao sneered in his heart. He didn't need the Long family's nurturing. He was very disgusted with the Long family's rule. Longao was very disgusted with it. The Long family occupying the Dragon Valley was one thing, but they actually made it clear that disciples below rank 3 were not allowed to become dragon warriors. Who would be willing to accept such a rule? It was precisely because of this that Longao decided to start anew and establish the dragon sect. In the future, if possible, he had to leave the Long clan. No matter what, Long Chang had obtained the divine dragon pearl. If Long Chang became the dragon god of the dragon clan, then everything would be easy. Longao, the Long family has decided to observe you first. Therefore, your performance is very important. I don't care what you think, but I want to give you a piece of advice. No matter what happens, you have to strengthen yourself first. Otherwise, everything will be nonsense. You're fine alone, but you have to think about your family. Unless it's a last resort, it's best not to go against the Long family. It won't do you any good. Longao nodded. How could he not know about Long Chen's concern? He naturally understood what Long Chen was trying to say. P.S. I wrote a chapter in 2 hours. I'm too sleepy. Little 9 should sleep first and wake up early tomorrow. There are still 3 chapters left. There will be a total of 13 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 486. Longao didn't continue asking, and Longchen didn't continue either. What needed to be said had been said. Next, it was their third battle. Longchen had lost the first battle and the second battle. Although he had already treated Longao as a friend, he still felt uncomfortable after losing so many times. Because of this, Longchen had gone to the Long family's ancestral hall for the baptism. His bloodline had just awakened and his cultivation had reached the peak of the Universe Emperor realm. Hence, he immediately came back to challenge Longao. How could Longao not know what Longchen was thinking? Longao, I hope you will not hold back in this battle. I won't hold back. Longchen didn't continue to talk nonsense. At this time, Longchen's whole body had already rushed out. As for his dragon companion, Longchen didn't mention it from the beginning to the end because he wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew that his dragon companion was no match for Longao's dragon companion. As for this point, it was also the most depressing thing for Longchen. In the blink of an eye, Longao and Longchen were engaged in a fierce battle. After more than 10 rounds, there was no clear winner. After more than 10 rounds, Longao was shocked. No wonder Longchen was so confident. It turned out that his strength had increased greatly. Peak of the Universe Emperor realm. All along, Longao had not taken any martial artists below the illusionary divine stage seriously, even if they were peak universe emperors. However, it was different now. He had created his own martial technique, Sorrow of Heaven and Earth. With Longao's body as the center, a tornado swept out instantly. Seeing this, Long Chen was shocked. In the end, he did not use his divine ability. In fact, Long Chen's intention was simple. He wanted to see if he could defeat Longao without using his divine ability. However, Long Chen was still in a tragic situation. He was swept by the tornado. The aura of heaven and earth suppressed him. Long Chen's speed and strength were restricted. The aura of heaven and earth disappeared, and so did Sorrow of Heaven and Earth. In fact, Long Chen had already lost without using his divine ability. Both Longao and Long Chen knew this clearly. Long Chen was helpless. He had already lost this battle. He had lost so quickly. If he hadn't used his innate ability, he would have been a corpse by now. Longao, the innate ability I've awakened is called acceleration. As he spoke, a powerful aura erupted from Long Chen's body, and an illusory dragon's shadow appeared behind him. Immediately after, Long Chen's speed increased by more than 2 times. What kind of concept was that? Longao was shocked. He was very wary of Long Chen's innate ability to speed up the awakening of his bloodline. After all, speed could often defeat one's strength and realm. Longao did not waste his effort. He knew very well that unless he used his innate superpower, Dragon Roar, it was almost impossible for him to defeat Long Chen. Speed. Longao was very frustrated when it came to speed. Once he encountered an enemy with extremely fast speed, he would be somewhat restricted. Longao's body also erupted with a dragon's breath, followed by a dragon's roar. A giant dragon phantom appeared behind Longao. It was the innate ability, Dragon's Roar. Innate ability! Long Chen, who had successfully awakened his innate ability, naturally knew what Longao was using. It was precisely because of this that Long Chen was almost scared to death. He had no idea what was going on. As everyone knew, the only way for a disciple of a Long family to awaken his innate ability was to enter the ancestral hall for baptism. Then, there would be a 1% chance to see if he could successfully awaken his innate ability. In other words, even if a disciple of a Long family could enter the ancestral hall for baptism, not everyone would be able to awaken their innate ability. 1 in 1,000 was already very good. One could imagine how difficult it was to awaken one's innate ability. Long Chen was sure that Longao definitely did not go to a Long family, nor did he enter the ancestral hall for baptism. If that was the case, how did Longao awaken his innate ability? Long Chen couldn't figure it out. Long Chen didn't dare to think about it because it was beyond his scope of knowledge. Even so, Long Chen didn't choose to give up. Under the acceleration of his innate ability, his speed instantly increased by 2 times. He was like a ghost that couldn't be seen at all. If an ordinary person were to fight Long Chen, they would definitely be defeated or even killed instantly. However, Longao was different. He had the innate ability, Dragon's Roar. A strange power enveloped Long Chen instantly. Long Chen's body was locked. He could even feel that the flow of time around him had changed. What was going on? It could be said that the innate ability, Dragon's Roar, was the nemesis of speed. No matter how fast you were, as long as you were enveloped by the innate ability, Dragon's Roar, your body would be instantly frozen. Longao, I've lost. Long Chen didn't continue the battle because he knew clearly that even if he continued the battle, he would definitely lose. Since that was the case, he might as well admit defeat as soon as possible. Long Chen's heart was filled with unwillingness. However, he knew that he would never be able to catch up to Longao in this lifetime. This wasn't just a matter of talent and potential. It was because Longao was too mysterious. He had awakened his innate ability for no reason. Longao, I'd like to ask, how did you awaken your innate ability? Longao didn't hide anything from Long Chen. Longao smiled and said, "It was a fluke. The last time you talked to me about the innate ability, I've been trying to awaken it since I went back. I accidentally succeeded. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. Hearing this, Long Chen was dealt a blow. In order to awaken his innate ability, he had traveled thousands of miles to visit his Long family. He had been ridiculed and ridiculed. Finally, he had succeeded. However, Longao didn't have to put in much effort at all. He had already achieved what Long Chen had painstakingly wanted to do. Comparisons were odious. Long Chen shrugged his shoulders helplessly. He sighed and said, I admit defeat. You're really powerful. Longao, I can say with certainty that with your talent and growth speed, in addition to your current bloodline multiplication divine ability, you'll definitely reach the divine realm in less than 10 years. At that time, who will be your opponent? Longao smiled and didn't attack Long Chen. If Long Chen knew that he had the inheritance of the divine Tao realm in his hands, Long Chen might even have the heart to die. Long Chen, can you tell me about the Long family when I go to the Long family? Longao really wanted to know about the Long family. However, he didn't have the slightest channel. Now that Long Chen had gone there, he believed that Long Chen had a certain understanding of the Long family. No matter what, Longao had a feeling that he wouldn't know when he would start a war with the Long family in the future. Chapter 487. Longao and Long Chen sat on the ground. At the peak of the mountain, a cold wind blew. Longao, what do you think of your strength? Although he didn't know what Long Chen meant by this question, Longao still answered honestly. It's nothing in the continent, but among my peers, I should be able to rank in the top 10. Hearing this, Long Chen didn't take it for granted. Instead, he sighed deeply. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be that his strength couldn't surpass his peers? Shaking his head helplessly, Long Chen said bitterly, If I didn't go to the Long family this time, I would also believe that with your strength and potential, you could surpass your peers without any problems. But now, after thinking for a while, Long Chen continued, Long family. Let's not talk about the experts first. Just the younger generation alone, there are many people who are stronger than you and me. F***ck Longao cursed in his heart. Of course, he knew that the Long family was strong. There was no doubt about this. After all, this was publicly known. Even if he didn't admit it, it was useless. However, Longao had always been confident in his own strength. With this kind of cultivation speed, he always thought that even if he couldn't become the best in the world, it shouldn't be a problem for him to rank in the top 10. But now, Longao, I won't hide it from you. When I went to the Long family this time, I was ridiculed and ridiculed. Because in their eyes, not to mention families like ours, they wouldn't even put a second-grade Long family disciple in their eyes. Before Longao could speak, Long Chen continued. If I didn't succeed in awakening my bloodline this time, I believe that I would have been kicked out of the dragon ranking. Regarding this point, Longao had already thought of it. Without needing Long Chen to say more, Longao had already guessed that the Long family's dragon ranking wasn't as simple as the outside world said. A world king or world emperor wanted to be on the dragon ranking? Longao knew very well that with Long Chen's strength, it was impossible for him to be on the list, even if he was last. If it wasn't for Long Chen's bloodline awakening, not to mention being on the list, it would be a big problem for him to come back unscathed. Longao, the Long family has already given me the best time limit. 1 year. 1 year later, I will accept the challenges of all the disciples of the Long family. If I succeed, I will continue to be on the dragon rank, and if I fail, I will fail. Long Chen did not continue, but the helplessness in his words was obvious. Longao also let out a deep sigh. As the saying goes, there will always be someone better than you. What he saw now was just the tip of the iceberg of the continent. The peak of the World Emperor realm, in the eyes of the outside world, could only be considered as a joke, an enormous joke. Longao noticed that Longao was touched. he suddenly smiled and said, "Longao, I absolutely believe in your talent and potential. However, Longao, I want to give you a piece of advice. If you have the chance in the future, if you go to the Long family, you must not casually provoke them. Otherwise, you will be in a lot of trouble. I will not go to the Long family." Longao had already decided that no matter what happened, he would not go to the Long family. Not to mention other things, just the fact that he established the dragon sect, he believed that the Long family would not let him go. Long Chen had just said that there were two voices in the Long family. A large portion of them did not want to deal with him, but after all, there was still a small portion that wanted to kill him. If he really went to the Long family, he knew what the result would be. Forget it, it's still early. At least the Long family won't deal with you now. In a year's time, I believe that you can rely on your own strength to occupy a position on the dragon ranking. Long Chen smiled bitterly. Although he was very confident, when he thought of the countless geniuses in the Long family, and the fact that there was no lack of monstrous geniuses, Long Chen felt a deep sense of helplessness. "Longao, I still have something to do. I will go into seclusion to cultivate for a year. After a year, I will come and find you again." After saying that, Long Chen got up and left quickly. In a short while, he had already disappeared without a trace. Longao did not leave immediately. Instead, he sat quietly on the mountain peak. Long family, dragon ranking, Long Chen, innate ability. Longao went through all of them in his mind. Longao realized that he seemed to have thought too simply about all of this. This was because no matter which voice in the Long family, he actually did not have the slightest right to speak. In the end, he was just a chess piece. Unless he could reach the so-called divine path, especially the heavenly god realm, he would always be a chess piece. There was only one way to get rid of his status as a chess piece, and that was to have powerful strength. Longao stood up and stretched. Just as Long Chen said, the Long family would not deal with him for the time being. In other words, he had enough time to improve his strength. On the day he broke through to the divine path, he wanted to see how the Long family would deal with him. Longao got up and left, preparing to return to the dragon sect. This time, Longao had to be very careful in forming an alliance with the imperial city. After all, it was better to be safe than sorry. No one knew what the imperial city was up to. However, the main reason why Longao agreed to the alliance was that he had originally planned to move the dragon sect to the 9 states spirit domains Sin City. This was because only then could he slowly infiltrate the 9 states spirit domain. Even if there was a war in the future, he would not have to worry about anything. Moreover, the imperial city had sent out a teleportation array. As long as he firmly grasped this teleportation array, he believed that even if he was injured in the future, he would be able to leave immediately. Rank 3 Long family. Seeing that Long Chen had returned and had successfully awakened his bloodline, the entire Long family was jubilant. This was because this was the first rank 3 disciple of the Long family to awaken his bloodline. In an instant, Long Chen's status in the Long family had risen. Great Hall. "Uncle, I have returned this time to prepare for seclusion for a year. I hope that no one will disturb me within this year. Furthermore, I would like to advise Uncle that you cannot provoke the Longao. Perhaps the 4 major forces do not care about the Longao's strength now, but in less than 10 years, I can guarantee that the Longao will grow to a very high level. At that time," Long Chen did not continue speaking, but the meaning in his words was very clear. "Chener, we will talk about this in the future. You have successfully awakened your innate ability this time. It is a blessing for the family. The old ancestor has urged you many times. You should go quickly." Long Chen deeply sighed. He knew that his uncle did not take his words to heart. If the family provoked the Longao, they would definitely be punished in the future. At that time, even if he was friends with the Longao, it would be difficult to deal with the aftermath. Without saying anything more, Long Chen turned around and left. After all, the old ancestor had summoned him, and he could not afford to be negligent. P.S. Damn, Qianwen in the group just said that no one could surpass him in gifts. He was embarrassed to continue gifting. Brothers, is there anyone who can surpass him? Little Gio is very grateful. Chapter 488. Dragon Sect. Longao had just returned to Dragon Sect and immediately started looking for a suitable candidate. Longao knew clearly that the earlier he received the inheritance, the earlier he could break through to Great Emperor or even Divine Tao. There were millions of disciples in Dragon Sect. If he were to look for them one by one, who knew how long it would take? Because of this, Longao prepared to choose a suitable candidate from the upper echelons. The first batch was Dugubai, Xiajun, Long Patian and the others. But after selecting and selecting, Longao still could not find a suitable candidate. Actually, the Divine Tao inheritance could be given to anyone. However, the right person would get twice the result with half the effort. For example, Dugubai wasn't suitable for the Divine Tao inheritance. Even if he could get the inheritance, he could only reach Great Emperor realm. However, if Long Patian was suitable for the inheritance, he might be able to break through to Divine Tao. Because of this, Longao would definitely give the inheritance to a suitable candidate. In the end, Longao had no choice but to leave Dragon Sect and return to his family. He was going to find a suitable candidate in his family. On the second day after returning to his family, Longao was pleasantly surprised to find that Kuang Ao's physique and everything was suitable for the Divine Tao inheritance. If Kuang Ao got the inheritance, he believed that the result would be twice the result with half the effort. Since that was the case, Longao didn't continue to hesitate. He immediately found Kuang Ao and asked, "Kuang Ao, how do you feel in Long family?" Longao and Kuang Ao were friends from the beginning. Therefore, Kuang Ao had been staying in Long family. Kuang Ao smiled and nodded. He said with satisfaction, "I'm living very comfortably. Brother Long, you've been in the limelight recently." Longao smiled and said directly, "Quan Gao, I've asked you to come here this time mainly for one thing. I'll tell you in advance that this matter is very dangerous. However, opportunities exist side by side. Whether you agree or not is up to you." Kuang Ao was surprised to see Long Ao so serious. He nodded and asked, "What is it?" "Kuang Ao, have you heard of Divine Tao martial artists?" "Divine Tao martial artists?" Kuang Ao was shocked to hear the words Divine Tao martial artists. He nodded and said, "Brother Long, of course I've heard of Divine Tao martial artists. It's said that Divine Tao martial artists are the strongest existences in the world. However, they only exist in legends. Legend has it." Smiling, Longao said, "Quan Gao, if I were to say that I've seen the divine soul of a Supreme Tao martial artist with my own eyes, and I even have a Supreme Tao inheritance, would you believe me?" He fiercely swallowed his saliva and said arrogantly, "I believe you, Brother Long." "Do you mean that you have already obtained the inheritance of the Supreme Tao, and will become a Supreme Tao warrior in the near future?" Warriors of the Supreme Tao. Domineering thought that Longao was very likely to become a Supreme Tao warrior, and his heart beat fiercely. It was simply infuriating. In just 1 year, Longao had already grown to such an extent. Who in the world could contend with Longao? With a mysterious smile, Longao said, "I have indeed obtained the inheritance of the Divine Tao, but I am not the one who has inherited it." "You're not going to inherit the Divine Tao inheritance?" "Yes, that's why I'm going to choose someone else to inherit the inheritance." Domineering wasn't an idiot. Of course, he could understand Longao's meaning. Moreover, Longao didn't look for anyone else but him. Could it be that Longao wanted to pass the inheritance of the Supreme Tao to him? Although he had already guessed it, Domineering was still somewhat excited and speechless. "Domineering, since you've already guessed it, then I'll also get straight to the point. This time, I've looked for you mainly to pass the inheritance of the Supreme Tao to you. I hope you can inherit it well. However, I'll still say the same thing. inheriting the inheritance of the Supreme Tao also comes with a certain amount of danger. Although Longao didn't continue speaking, the meaning in his words was already very clear. Brother Long, since you think so highly of me, I'll also get straight to the point. No matter what kind of danger it is, I'm not afraid. Domineering was very clear that Longao chose him because he believed in him. To him, the inheritance of the Supreme Tao was undoubtedly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once he missed it, who knew if he would get such an opportunity again in the future? Brother Long, don't worry. Now that I've obtained the inheritance of the Supreme Tao, no matter what realm I reach, I'll protect the Long family and never abandon them. This was what he wanted. Although Longao didn't say it explicitly, he really hoped that Domineering would stay in the Long family. Although Domineering was his friend, Longao wasn't a saint. It was impossible for him to give the inheritance of the Supreme Tao to an outsider for free. However, Domineering was smart enough to say it out in advance. No matter what, he knew clearly what the inheritance of the Supreme Tao represented. Once he obtained the inheritance of the Supreme Tao, even if he couldn't achieve the Supreme Tao, he could at least reach the Great Sovereign Realm. Domineering, to be honest, ever since I've obtained the inheritance of the Supreme Tao, I've looked for many people. None of them are suitable to inherit the inheritance of the Supreme Tao. If there's no accident, once you inherit the inheritance of the Supreme Tao, you'll definitely become a Supreme Tao warrior in the future. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't surprised. Next, Longao directly inserted the inheritance of the Supreme Tao into Domineering's body. The rest was up to Domineering to comprehend and refine. Longao knew clearly that if Domineering wanted to refine the inheritance of the Supreme Tao, he would need at least a few years. However, after a few years, the Dragon Sect would have its first Supreme Tao warrior. He could totally imagine that if the Dragon Sect could have its first Supreme Tao warrior, would the four major forces still dare to provoke the Dragon Sect? Because of this, Longao was looking forward to the day when Domineering became a Supreme Tao warrior. Domineering didn't hesitate. He immediately found a secluded place and started to cultivate in seclusion. At the same time, he started to refine the inheritance of the Supreme Tao. Long family, main hall. Aor, is what you said just now true? Hearing Longao talking about the Supreme Tao inheritance, everyone was shocked. Following that, they were pleasantly surprised. Although they didn't know what the inheritance of the Supreme Tao was, they were shocked to hear that the Supreme Tao warrior was the strongest existence in the world. Longao and the others didn't seem to understand why Aoa would give the inheritance of the Supreme Tao to Domineering. In everyone's opinion, although Domineering was Longao's friend, he wasn't a disciple of the Long family. If he fell out with them in the future, wouldn't they suffer a double loss? How could Longao not know what everyone was thinking? He said firmly, I believe in my friend and I believe in Domineering even more. This matter ends here. Grandfather, don't leak this matter out. Otherwise, we will be in big trouble. Longao knew clearly that once the inheritance of the Supreme Tao was leaked out, not to mention the four major forces, just the Wanshou sect, Heaven and Earth sect, and the Long family would interfere. Especially the Wanshou sect. No matter what, this Supreme Tao warrior was from the Wanshou sect. Therefore, to avoid trouble, it was best not to leak this matter out. Chapter 489. Yes, this matter won't spread. Longao knew that the Divine Tao inheritance was no small matter. Once it spread, the implications would be too great. Grandfather, according to the speed at which Kwang-Ao is refining the Divine Tao inheritance, he will become a great emperor or Divine Tao realm in at most 5 or even 3 years. If that's the case, then our Long family will have the qualifications to aim for the continent. Longao nodded excitedly. Longao felt like he was dreaming when he thought about the birth of a Divine Tao martial artist in the family. Aor, did the Imperial City ask you to go to the Alliance this time? Nodding his head, Longao did not hide anything. He explained Duan Kai's intentions in full detail. After listening, the three elders, Longao, Wang Yidao, and Mu Wanfeng, were not as surprised as they had imagined. Instead, they were extremely solemn. The three of them had been through a lot. Of course, they knew that with the grudge between Longao and the Imperial City would not be so kind as to ally with the dragon sect against the three forces. There was no doubt that the Imperial City must be plotting something. Since you have agreed, then we must be careful. Are you going to move the dragon sect over first, or do you want to move the family over as well? Longao was a little troubled when this question was raised. According to Longao's previous idea, he was going to move the sect and family to the Nine States Spirit Realm. The Dark Forest would be the headquarters, and the City of Sin would be the outer sect. This way, they would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. However, the problem now was that there were too many unexpected situations if he wanted to ally with the Imperial City. If the sect and family were to move to the Nine States Spirit Realm, the losses would be infinitely greater if they encountered trouble. As the master of the dragon sect and a disciple of the Long family, Longao's first priority was the safety of his family and disciples, not how to fight against the four forces. I have a suggestion. Please say it, grandfather. It's very simple. The family will stay here, and the dragon sect will be divided into two. One will enter the Nine States Spirit Realm and ally with the Imperial City to deal with the three forces. The other will stay and expand the dragon sect's strength. Longao instantly understood what his grandfather meant. Without the slightest objection, he nodded and agreed. Let's do it this way. This time, I will personally lead the dragon sect to the spirit realm of the Nine States. Grandfather, I will leave the family to you. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about the family. You must be careful when you enter the spirit realm of the Nine States. Don't be reckless. Nodding, Longao passed the divine Dao inheritance to Quan Gao. He didn't stay in the clan for long. After meeting with Aoshue and his parents, he left the clan. No matter what, he still had to make preparations. This alliance with the royal city was no small matter, he couldn't be careless. Otherwise, the one who would suffer in the end would be him. As soon as he returned to the dragon sect, Longao immediately gathered all the higher-ups of the dragon sect, including Dugu Bai, Snake Emperor Xia Jun, Long Patian, Ghost King, and the others. Getting straight to the point, Longao roughly explained his thoughts and asked, "What do you think? Master, this method is workable." With Snake Emperor's approval, everyone expressed that they had no objections. This way, the dragon sect would be divided into two parts. One part would go to the spirit realm of the Nine States and form an alliance with the royal city, and the other part would stay to expand the sect's strength. Before returning, Longao had already thought about it. Uncle Ao, Elder Snake will oversee the dragon sect and develop the sect's strength. Big Brother Dugu and Big Brother Patian will follow me to the spirit realm of the Nine States. The rest will stay. Master, are you going to bring the corpse slave army with you this time? Snake Emperor was most concerned about this because he had seen the terror of the corpse slave army with his own eyes. Once the master took the corpse slave army with him, it would be very difficult to develop the sect's strength. At least, it would be 2 or 3 times more difficult. How could everyone not know what Snake Emperor meant? However, no one said anything because everyone knew that Snake Emperor was doing this for the sect. Everything would depend on the master. Elder Snake, this time I will only bring 1,000 ordinary disciples to the spirit realm of the Nine States. As for the others and the corpse slave army, they will all stay in the sect. You only need to do one thing, and that is to conquer the entire Nine States in the shortest time possible. Not taking the corpse slave army. Hearing this, Snake Emperor was instantly delighted. With the corpse slave army, Snake Emperor had full confidence that he could lead the corpse slave army to conquer the Nine States. Master, don't worry. Within a year, I will lead the corpse slave army to conquer the Nine States. The Snake Emperor ignored the disciples of the dragon sect. Sweeping through the Nine States was too dangerous. If they chose to fight head-on, the losses would be too great. With the help of the corpse slave army, the losses would be reduced to zero. Why not? Longao had already decided that when he went to the spirit realm of the 9 states, he would go to the dark forest and create a new corpse slave army. At that time, even if the imperial city wanted to play tricks, he would at least have the corpse slave army to stop them. Longao had full confidence in the corpse slave army that he had created. An undying body that could fight against 10,000 people was no joke. In the following time, Longao, Snake Emperor, and Ghost King discussed the sex matters until 3 days later. Longao brought Dugabai, Long Patian, and 1,000 disciples and left the dragon sect for the spirit realm of the 9 states. They did not hide at all. The imperial city and the dragon sect formed an alliance? The first reaction of everyone who heard the news was that they did not believe it because everyone knew that Longao and the imperial city had always been enemies. It was either you die or I die. Since that was the case, how could Longao and the imperial city form an alliance? Just when everyone was in disbelief, the imperial city and the dragon sect announced to the world at the same time that the imperial city and the dragon sect had officially formed an alliance. Since then, no one had the slightest doubt, because since the imperial city and the dragon sect had announced to the world, this matter was absolutely true and would not change. It shocked the world. The alliance between the dragon sect and the imperial city completely shocked the world. Until now, everyone finally understood that there were no eternal enemies in the world, only unchanging interests. Although no one knew why the imperial city and the dragon sect had formed an alliance, everyone knew that the 9 states had become even more chaotic. The other 3 major forces, the Nether Mansion, Ethereal Palace, and the third-rank Long family, chose to remain silent about the alliance between the imperial city and the dragon sect. Thus, the spirit realm of the 9 states became even more turbulent because no one knew what the imperial city and the dragon sect were planning. The spirit realm of the 9 states had 4 major forces: the eastern imperial city, the western third-rank Long family, the southern Nether Mansion, the northern Ethereal Palace, and now the Sin City, which was the so-called dragon sect. Chapter 490. The Imperial City had a total of 3 teleportation formations, and one of them was given to the dragon sect. With their own teleportation formation, it would be much more convenient to enter the spirit domain of the 9 states. Longao brought the dragon sect into the spirit domain of the 9 states. Soon, they arrived at the city of Sin and settled down temporarily. Spirit domain of the 9 states, rank 3 Long family, main hall. Master, now that the imperial city and the dragon sect have formed an alliance, it seems like they want to deal with us. What should we do? Long Yan's face was extremely gloomy because he never thought that the imperial city and the dragon sect would suddenly form an alliance. Now, things were getting troublesome. Who knew what the imperial city and the dragon sect were thinking? The dragon sect was easy to deal with. As long as the 4 forces were determined to destroy the dragon sect, it could be done at any time. But the imperial city and the dragon sect had formed an alliance. With the support of the imperial city, it would not be easy for the 3 forces to continue destroying the dragon sect. Humph, there's no need to be nervous about this. You and I both know the grudge between the imperial city and Longao. The imperial city is willing to form an alliance with the dragon sect? I don't believe it. But Master, waving his hand, Long Maoan said, let's wait and see. The rank 3 Long family, Nether Mansion, and Ethereal Palace did not care about the alliance between the imperial city and the dragon sect. It seemed like they did not care about the alliance at all. But after thinking about it, it was understandable. The dragon sect had just been established. How could the imperial city alone be a match for the 3 forces? The 2 sides were not comparable at all. Longao was extremely excited about the attitude of the 3 forces. This was the effect he wanted. The imperial city and the dragon sect were in an alliance in name, but in reality, they were doing their own thing. The Imperial City only gave out a teleportation formation. The City of Sin. As soon as they entered the City of Sin, Longao immediately found the two half-saints and handed over the matters of the City of Sin to the four of them. Then, Longao entered the dark forest and prepared to create an army of corpse demons in the shortest time. At least, it could ensure the safety of the City of Sin. The dark forest was a paradise for spiritual beasts and hell for warriors. Under normal circumstances, no one would enter the dark forest unless they wanted to hunt spirit beasts and obtain beast cores. Otherwise, no one would be so bored as to cause trouble for themselves. Longao was now a peak world emperor. As long as he did not encounter a saint beast, he could almost kill them all. Longao wasn't polite this time. He prepared to create an army of 10,000 World King spirit beasts and World Emperor spirit beasts. In other words, when Longao entered the dark forest, he only wanted to kill World King's spirit beasts and World Emperor spirit beasts. As for the lower level spirit beasts, he didn't care about them at all. Tianzhou, Long Family, Back Mountain. In a secluded cave, domineering pride sat quietly on the ground, refining the divine Tao inheritance in his body. From the beginning to the end, Longao was in a state of extreme excitement because he knew clearly that once he refined the divine Tao inheritance in his body, he would be able to break through to the great emperor realm at the very least. If he could break through to the divine Tao realm, he would be like a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. Supreme Tao martial artists were existences that stood at the pinnacle of martial arts. Didn't that mean that once he refined the divine Tao inheritance, he would be able to stand at the pinnacle of martial arts and look down on the heavens? In domineering pride's heart, he was actually very grateful to one person, and that was Longao. Domineering pride knew clearly that if it wasn't for Longao, he wouldn't have been able to obtain the divine Tao inheritance. In this lifetime, he wouldn't have been able to break through to the divine Tao realm. He wouldn't even be able to break through to the great emperor realm. Sitting quietly in the cave, domineering pride wholeheartedly refined the divine Tao inheritance in his body. At this moment, a burst of cold laughter rang out, scaring domineering pride. He said vigilantly, "Who is it? Come out if you have the ability." "Humph, with just you." In domineering pride's shocked gaze, he realized that his body was no longer under his control. He didn't know what had happened at all. In the blink of an eye, domineering pride's soul was taken over and replaced with the divine soul. "Ha ha ha, I've finally been reborn. Gotcha." Before the divine soul could finish rejoicing, a terrifying energy suddenly appeared from the ground and enveloped him. Feeling this terrifying aura, the illusory old man seemed to have thought of something and shouted in fear. "Impossible! This is impossible!" Without giving the divine soul any chance, it was directly absorbed by the energy from the ground. Domineering pride's soul was instantly restored. What a terrifying energy! It can even devour the divine soul of a supreme Tao martial artist. Domineering pride already knew what had happened. He was devoured by his divine soul, and his divine soul was devoured by a mysterious energy. In other words, this mysterious energy was at least at the divine Tao realm. There was a supreme Tao martial artist in Longao Peak? Impossible. Domineering pride had stayed here for a long time. It was impossible that he didn't know. Could there really be a super supreme Tao martial artist in Longao Peak? Not daring to hesitate, domineering pride didn't even inform Longhaoshi and the others. He quietly left the Long family. His intuition told him that this was no small matter. He had to inform Brother Long as soon as possible. In just 3 days, Longao had killed over 100 World King and World Emperor spirit beasts. According to Long Fu's refining speed, it would take several days. It was also because of this that Longao left the dark forest and returned to Sin City. Just as he stepped into Sin City, Longao already knew that domineering pride had arrived. Longao was puzzled. He didn't know why domineering pride had come here. After all, under normal circumstances, Domineering pride should have gone into seclusion to refine the supreme Tao inheritance after obtaining it. Filled with curiosity, Longao returned to the city lord mansion. Brother Long, things have become troublesome. Speak slowly. What happened? Domineering pride didn't dare to be negligent. He recounted everything that happened in the cave without missing a single detail. After he finished, domineering pride deeply sighed and said, I can say with certainty that within Longao Peak, there must be an even more powerful supreme Tao martial artist. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to devour divine souls. Longao nodded. His expression was dignified. This was because he never imagined that there would be a supreme Tao martial artist at Longao Peak. If this was true, then things would truly be troublesome. No matter what, the Long family was currently at Longao Peak. Longao wasn't sure whether the supreme Tao martial artist at Longao Peak was a true body, or a divine soul. Whether it was the true body or divine soul, since they could devour the divine soul of a heavenly god, this proved just how terrifying this supreme Tao martial artist was. Longao could completely guess that the strength of this supreme Tao martial artist had reached the peak of the heavenly god realm. Peak of the heavenly god realm, an existence that stood at the pinnacle of martial arts. Longao Peak actually had such a powerful supreme Tao martial artist. This was something that no one could have imagined. Chapter 491. Brother Long, what should we do now? Kwang Ao was terrified. If it wasn't for this supreme Tao expert devouring the supreme Tao inheritance, his soul would have been destroyed long ago. However, domineering arrogance was still unwilling because he had already obtained the inheritance of the divine Tao. If he were to disappear just like that, not to mention him, he believed that no matter who it was, they would have the same expression. Supreme Tao inheritance. Thinking that he was so close to the supreme Tao expert, Kwang Ao cursed in his heart. Long Ao knew what Kwang Ao was thinking and said, It's fated. There's no need to force it. What's yours will always be yours. If it's not yours, it's useless no matter how hard you try. After thinking for a while, Long Ao said, Don't be impatient. Since this supreme Tao expert didn't do anything to us, I believe he doesn't have any ill intentions. Let's wait and see. Wait and see? Domineering arrogance was very worried. No matter what, the other party was a genuine supreme Tao martial artist. He believed that with a move of his finger, he could easily exterminate everyone in the Long family. Since you're here, stay and help me. I'm going back. Brother Long, you must be careful. It's fine. Before he left, Long Ao found the two half-sages, Dugabai and Long Patian. He went straight to the point and said, Something happened in the clan. I have to rush back immediately. I'll leave Sin City's matters to you too. Seeing the master so serious, the four knew that something big must have happened in the Long family. Dugabai asked worriedly, Master, what happened? Yes, why don't we go back with you? Long Ao waved his hand and said, It's fine. I can handle it myself. You guys just have to help me manage Sin City. The four knew the master's character very well. Once he decided on something, it was almost impossible to change it. Remember, no matter what happens in the Imperial City, you guys just have to say that I'm not here and wait for me to come back. If the Nether Mansion, Ethereal Palace, and Long family attack, you guys can choose to defend. Master, we know what to do. With regards to the four of them, Long Ao was not worried at all. Without further ado, Long Ao stood up and left Sin City. On the surface, Long Ao did not seem to be in a hurry, but in his heart, he could not wait any longer. Just like what Domineering Ao had said, this expert of the Long Ao Peak was a supreme Tao martial artist after all. Just by moving his finger, he could easily annihilate the entire clan. It was precisely because of this that Long Ao couldn't wait to return to his family. No matter what, he had to find out what had happened. Why would a supreme Tao warrior suddenly appear in Long Ao and be able to devour the divine soul of a divine realm warrior? If Domineering hadn't said it himself, Longao wouldn't have believed it at all. They had just left the city of Sin and had yet to step into the teleportation portal when they passed by a barren land. Longao's face instantly turned cold as two figures suddenly appeared in front of him. They were none other than Lu Bumming and Feng Wei from the Ethereal Palace. "The two of you, we are really fated to meet here." Longao was very afraid of Feng Wei and Lu Bumming. No matter what, the two of them were saints, super existences above the half-saint realm. Longao knew very well that if he encountered two half-saints, he might have a chance to take advantage of them if they were careless. But if he encountered two saints, there was almost no chance for him to win. This was the difference between the half-saints and saints. The difference was like heaven and earth. Feng Wei snorted and said coldly, "Longao, you created havoc in the Ethereal Palace. It's time to settle the score today." Longao instantly understood what the two of them meant. It seemed that the two of them couldn't wait any longer. It could also be said that they were afraid. The one-year agreement was almost useless for these shameless people. Longao completely despised the two of them. "Longao, for the sake of the one-year agreement, the two of us can give you a chance. 10 moves, you can choose one of us. As long as you can take 10 moves from us, we will let you go. The one-year agreement is still valid. How about it? 10 moves." It seemed simple, but it was actually very dangerous. If he was careless, he would be killed by the two saints. Feng Wei and Lu Bumming's meaning was very simple. It was indeed a little shameless to fight openly. Although they had to be shameless, they had to find an excuse. Regardless of the others, they could at least give an explanation to the two of them. Longao smiled contemptuously. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such shameless people. They had reached the extreme. "Feng Wei, Lu Bumming, you are dignified saints. How can you be so shameless? No problem, I will take 10 moves from either of you. But let me tell you clearly, if I can take 10 moves from you this time, I will assassinate the Ethereal Palace within a year, no matter who it is." Hearing this, Feng Wei and Lu Bumming's faces instantly darkened and turned as ugly as they could. Feng Wei and Lu Bumming were not fools. According to Longao's strength, once he assassinated, the sect would be completely unlucky. As the saying goes, those who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who wear shoes. "Longao, you have to know that you have the Dragon sect and the Long family behind you. If we assassinate..." Feng Wei did not continue, but the meaning of his words was very clear. "If you assassinate the disciples of the Ethereal Palace, I will assassinate the disciples of the Dragon sect and the Long family. Let's see who is afraid of who." But Longao was really not afraid. He said very indifferently, "In that case, let's start." "I hope you are really not afraid. When the time comes, let's have a competition and see who can kill more people. What do you think? F***ck, he's simply crazy." Whether it was Feng Wei or Lu Bumming, both of them cursed in their hearts. But they really did not dare to gamble, and could not gamble. If they were unlucky and let this person escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. But things had already come to this point. If the two of them retreated in the face of difficulties, wouldn't they be ridiculed by the world? This time, the two saints intercepted Longao halfway. It was a very secretive thing in itself, because Longao and the Ethereal Palace had a one-year agreement. The two of them intercepted him halfway, which was a shameless act in itself. "Longao, what do you want?" "Ha ha, what do I want?" As if he had heard the funniest thing in the world, Longao looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was full of contempt and ridicule, while Feng Wei and Lu Bumming's faces became even colder. "You intercepted me halfway, and now you ask me what do I want? I want to ask, what do you want? You violated our one-year agreement, which is already very shameless. I didn't expect you to be even more shameless." Chapter 492. Longao, the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. Waving his hand, Longao did not give the two any chance to talk nonsense. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. That's right, and I agree with it. But your behavior is shameless to the extreme. Since you are despicable people, why did you agree to the 1-year agreement? Whether it was Feng Wei or Lu Buming, they were speechless by Longao's question and did not know how to answer. No matter what, they were in the wrong in this matter. The 1-year agreement was made by the two of them and Longao in the ethereal palace. But in just over a month, they violated the 1-year agreement. This time, Feng Wei and Lu Buming had no choice but to make such a decision. The two of them had never thought that Longao's potential would be so great. Adding to the fact that the imperial city had suddenly turned against them, once Longao was given enough time to develop, the two of them found it hard to imagine just how far Longao would grow. Because of this, the two of them finally chose to intercept and kill him halfway. The two of them knew very well that once they successfully killed Longao, all the trouble would disappear and the Jiuzhou spirit region would return to its previous state. In the end, the culprit was Longao. Therefore, Longao would undoubtedly die. But the two of them were not fully confident. Two saints working together were not confident to kill a peak world emperor. If this matter was spread out, it would definitely be a laughingstock. But for some reason, the two of them just did not have confidence. Longao, if I can't defeat you within 10 moves, Dragon Sect and Ethereal Palace will develop separately within a year. After a year, we will fight to the death. How about it? No. Longao was too lazy to look down on them. Ethereal Palace had taken all the good things. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Feng Wei, Lu Buming, let's be frank. I know what you two mean. You want to kill me and get rid of all future troubles. Feng Wei and Lu Buming didn't say anything. With a cold snort, Longao continued. Since that's the case, let's cut the crap. If I can take 10 moves from you, you have to promise me one thing. If I can't, you don't have to do anything. I'll kill myself right here. The two saints were surprised to hear Longao's words. They couldn't figure out what gave Longao such confidence. Not to mention a pinnacle world emperor martial artist, even a pinnacle half-saint martial artist might not be able to take 10 moves from a saint. He had full confidence in the two of them. Because of this, Lu Buming replied, No problem. Who do you want to choose? You then. You don't look like a good person. You have a fat head and big ears. You look like you're asking for a beating. Lu Buming couldn't stand being scolded, but he knew that he couldn't be fooled and give the other party a chance to take advantage of him. Feng Wei retreated to one side, while Longao concentrated. Although 10 moves could be completed in the blink of an eye in a battle between two martial artists, Longao didn't have full confidence that he could take 10 moves from the other party. If he couldn't, his life would be in danger. Longao? Your grandfather? Without giving Lu Buming the slightest chance to speak, Longao took a big stride and rushed out. Before he arrived, the terrifying aura of heaven and earth had already suppressed him. He used his self-created martial technique, Sorrow of Heaven and Earth. The aura of heaven and earth. Lu Buming already knew that Longao had condensed the aura of heaven and earth. With some precautions he could resist it. But what Lu Buming didn't expect was that Longao's martial technique was so powerful. Longao was like a huge tornado, sweeping around. In an instant, Lu Buming was swept into the tornado. Inside the tornado, Longao attacked one move after another. Before Lu Buming could react, he directly used Blood Drinker, devouring the heavens. The terrifying power of the saber slashed out like a meteor. Lu Buming was shocked. Lu Buming really didn't expect Longao's offensive to be so fierce. He didn't give him the slightest chance at all. He didn't even release his Saint Chi. Lu Buming didn't dare to be careless and dodged in time. He had to admit that the speed of a saint was very fast, but even so, he still brushed past the saber light. Cracks appeared in the surrounding space caused by the saber light, causing Lu Bumming to roll and crawl. He was almost swallowed by the saber light. Rolling and crawling, he rolled out of the tornado and looked at the tornado in front of him in a daze. Until now, Lu Bumming still didn't know what had happened. Although he didn't want to admit it, Lu Bumming knew very well that if it was a normal battle, he would have lost. He had to admit that Longao was really strong. Fortunately, the gap in cultivation realm was difficult to make up for, otherwise he would have been killed just now. Not only Lu Bumming, but even Fenghui, who was watching the battle, was deeply shocked. He also didn't know what had happened. Why did Lu Bumming roll and crawl out? Brother Lu, are you okay? Before Lu Bumming could ask, the tornado had disappeared and Longao's figure appeared. He looked at the saint in front of him with a sneer, without the slightest fear, and said, Lu Bumming, how do you feel? Longao, you don't have to be so arrogant. It was just 2 moves. If you can take the other 8 moves, I will kowtow to you and call you grandfather. Call what? Grandfather. Lu Bumming definitely wouldn't be fooled if it was any other time, but now, Lu Bumming's state of mind had obviously changed. After all, he was a saint expert who was almost killed by a world emperor. Not to mention others, even he himself began to despise himself a little. Amazing. Fenghui sighed in his heart. He had to admit that Longao was indeed a rare genius. It was precisely because of this that this boy couldn't be left alive. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. Seemingly knowing that he had been fooled, Lu Bumming didn't continue to talk nonsense in anger. His body erupted with Saint Qi, trying to use it to suppress Longao. If it was an ordinary world emperor, Lu Bumming believed that Saint Qi could completely suppress Longao, but it seemed a little inadequate to suppress Longao. After all, Longao had the imposing manner of heaven and earth, a powerful imposing manner that was superior to Saint Qi. The imposing manner of heaven and earth couldn't suppress the power of Saint Qi, but it could suppress the imposing manner of Saint Qi. Just as Lu Bumming released his imposing manner, he seemed to have thought of something and his face turned bitter. He wanted to withdraw it, but it seemed to be too late. With his imposing manner firmly suppressed, Longao changed from passive to active and rushed out again. This time, it wasn't his self-created martial skills, heaven and earth sorrow or devour blood, but his bloodline awakened innate divine ability, dragon roar. Innate divine ability, dragon roar. A loud dragon roar resounded, instantly resounding through the world. At this time, a huge illusory dragon shadow suddenly appeared behind Longao, vicissitudes of life and majesty. Chapter 493. Innate Divine Ability, Dragon's Roar. The ancient dragon's roar resounded through heaven and earth, and a strange power instantly enveloped Lu Bumming. Innate divine ability! Feeling this terrifying power enveloping them, both Fenghui and Lu Bumming's faces changed abruptly, as if they were in disbelief. Both of them knew very well what innate divine abilities represented. According to legend, once a disciple of the Long family enters the Long family's ancestral hall for baptism, their bloodline will awaken innate divine abilities, and their strength will increase greatly. However, Longao did not have the opportunity to enter the Long family's ancestral hall for baptism. It was because of this that both of them could not figure out how Longao could have innate divine abilities. Lu Bumming was instantly enveloped by the innate divine ability due to his carelessness. Lu Bumming found that his body was locked, and the flow of time around him had changed. He had no idea what was going on. Not daring to be careless, Lu Bumming channeled all the power in his body to break free from this power. A saint was a saint, and innate divine abilities did not seem to be of much use. Longao used his innate divine ability, Dragon's Roar, not to defeat or kill Lu Bumming, but to stall for time. According to their agreement, as long as he could withstand 10 moves, he would be considered the winner. 10 moves. It might seem like a simple task, but it was impossible for him to persevere through it. However, After using heaven and earth's sorrow and devour bloodthirst, and then using his innate divine ability, Longao could be considered to have stalled for 7 moves, and there were only 3 left to win. What Longao could think of, Feng Wei and Lu Buming could also think of. After being tricked for 7 moves in a row, and he did not even have the chance to react, Lu Buming was extremely depressed. As a saint, he was actually tricked by a world emperor martial artist consecutively. If this matter were to spread, he would definitely be ridiculed. Longao, I'd like to see how you're going to withstand the last 3 moves. Idiot. Not bothering to talk nonsense, Longao continued to strike first. This time, Longao did not use his so-called innate divine ability, nor did he use heaven and earth's sorrow, but instead took out the bell of death from his arms. His soul power entered the bell of death. At this time, a deep and strange bell rang, spreading in all directions, rolling and long and deep. Death knell. Ever since Longao obtained the death knell, this was the first time he used it. As for how powerful it was, he had no idea. However, Longao was sure of one thing, and that was that the death knell was a supreme treasure of a supreme Dao martial artist. Just by thinking about it, he knew that its power would not be weak. The bell of death rang out. Once one was infected by it, it would be like a hammer smashing into one's soul. Saints were no exception. Lu Buming was taken aback. He felt as if his soul had been struck hard. Fortunately, he had the protection of his Saint Qi. Otherwise, this strike alone would have been enough to kill him. Whether Longao was a human or not, Lu Buming was really afraid of him at this moment. This was because Longao had used strange moves one after another. Lu Buming and Feng Wei were very clear in their hearts that a semi-sage expert would have been killed without exception if they had been careless. Feng Wei and Lu Buming joined forces to release their Saint Qi, and the sound of the death knell was instantly extinguished. However, the 2 of them had violated the agreement. According to the agreement, this was a battle between Longao and Lu Buming. Feng Wei could not intervene, but what was the result? 8 moves had passed, and only 2 moves were left. However, Longao looked at the 2 in front of him with a sneer. He did not speak, but Longao's face was full of ridicule and contempt. Feng Wei and Lu Buming cursed Longao fiercely in their hearts. No matter what, they had violated the agreement first this time. However, they had no choice but to do so. After all, the sound of the bell just now was too terrifying. If they did not take action, who knew what would happen next? Feng Wei, Lu Buming, I wonder if this counts as my victory? Nope. Longao had already guessed that the 2 of them would say this. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such disgusting and shameless people. They had violated the agreement first, but they acted as if they were right. It was disgusting to see them. Longao, I released my qi just now because I was anxious. Now that 9 moves have passed, there is only 1 move left. As long as you can withstand the 10th move, you win this battle. Longao did not continue to talk nonsense. He knew that it would not be easy to withstand Lu Buming's last move even if he used all his trump cards. This time, Lu Buming did not release his Saint Qi. No matter what, his opponent had the heaven and earth Qi. Even if he released his Qi, it would be useless. It was precisely because of this that Lu Buming rushed out like an arrow. Before he arrived, his terrifying fist force had already arrived. All the strength in his body was gathered on his fists. In this case, Longao could only choose to meet force with force. He also punched out with both fists. At this time, the 2 fists collided fiercely. The fist force scattered and collided with each other. When the 2 fists collided, Longao's face suddenly changed and he cursed. Shameless thing. It turned out that this time, Lu Buming's attack was not just his own strength, but also Feng Wei's. The full-strength attack of 2 saints, one could imagine how powerful it was. Longao knew that the 2 of them were shameless, but he never thought that the 2 of them would be shameless to this extent. They clearly agreed that one of them would fight, but what happened in the end? This time, Feng Wei suddenly made a move and gathered all his power into Lu Buming's body. It could be considered as a gamble. Since things had developed to this point, they could not let Longao continue to live. Otherwise, not to mention their face, just the other party's potential and room for development was enough to deter them. In order not to cause trouble for themselves in the future, the two of them finally chose this move. No matter what happened, even if they were laughed at in the future, as long as they could kill Longao. Longao could not resist the punch of two saints at all. With a loud bang, Longao's whole body flew out. In midair, he vomited blood and his body trembled. It was obvious that he would not survive. Whether it was Feng Wei or Lu Buming, both of them had full confidence in their joint punch. Not to mention a little world emperor, even a warrior at the peak of the half-saint realm couldn't resist it. Even a saint would die as long as he was attacked by them. This was the power of two saints joining forces. It was unstoppable. Longao was not killed by the punch. After all, the Saint of Desolation had helped him to reduce 50% of the power. But even so, Longao still felt that all the internal organs in his body were displaced, and his body could fall apart at any time. Not daring to be careless, Longao stopped abruptly. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.